City of Fort Ridge City Council meeting Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. I'd invite Secretary Fields for the invocation remain standing for prayer. Father, we come to you. We thank you that you helped us to get through 2 storms and that we got a lot of things to be grateful for, that we're here. We thank you for the leadership of our city and Matt for working with all the things that's going on and operation, with the storms and stuff. And I thank you for Public Works, how you use them and still using them, and people coming together, helping neighbors, resourcing together with the city, also with the county, and all the volunteers. And thank you for the food, and thank you for the cleanup, and for the stuff that's on the agenda tonight. There's so much, but I want to go ahead and just get right into it. I just ask for wisdom and guidance in the name of Jesus as we give the Pledge of Allegiance to God we trust. In Jesus' name, amen.
Madam Clerk, have roll, please.
Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilman David Mueller.
Here.
Councilman Robert Hubbard.
Here.
Councilwoman Lisa Burke.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
City Manager Matthew Koppler.
Here. Thank you. Okay. Move right along to minutes to approve. We've got several sets here, so we'll take one at a time. So starting with the July 30th, 2024 City Council Budget Workshop minutes. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve 7:30 budget workshop minutes.
Second. A motion second for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next set is August 6th, 2024 City Council Emergency Meeting Minutes.
Approve 8-6 council emergency meeting minutes.
Second. A motion second for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, August 13th, 2024 City Council Meeting Minutes. I did notice a small thing as a repeat of the, I'll get to that real quick. I just want to strike it out on there where it says that Dave retract his motion. It says that, and then it says it again. Not a big deal on there. I threw a page off, but so look for a motion with that amendment.
Motion to approve 8:13 city council meeting minutes.
Second. Motion second for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is September 5th, 2024 City Council Budget Hearing Minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve September 5th council meeting. Second.
Okay, motion second for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, October 7th, 2024 City Council Emergency Meeting Minutes.
Motion to approve October 7th, 2024 emergency meeting. Second.
Okay, motion second for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ashley was busy this last session.
Working on it, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, next up is comments from the general public. Public participation is encouraged. If you're addressing the council, step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please limit your general comments to 3 minutes. For comments on action items, please limit comments to 3 minutes on the current topic. Please limit your conversations while sitting in the audience during council business and silence your cell phone so as not to interfere with everyone's ability to hear the comments of both the public and the council during any time. I will just reiterate that the initial set of comments, those are general, talk about anything. If you're here to talk about something specific on the agenda, there's no need, unless you want to talk about it twice, but it's really the idea of the first part comments is general topics of discussion. I would suggest you hold your comments on any particular agenda item to when we actually have that, and we'll open that up for its own comments. Okay? So with that, I do have some people signed up, starting with Danny Fields. Welcome.
Name's Danny Fields. My address is 8114 Leo Kid. Again, I want to thank you for your service. We know that we've been through a lot, but together we see that we could learn from the storms and network together. So all that, my mom lost a lot of stuff in her place, and I fared good, but some of you didn't. So I just continue to ask neighbor to help neighbor, and I'm grateful for Matt and Laura with management of the county and all that they're doing. You know, Sal, operation managers and public works, you know, they've been working. And we're so grateful for everybody in the teams and the faith-based church and all the volunteers getting food out, serving hot food, you know, showers and laundry mats set up at Waterfront Park. So that's what I've been talking about all the time with Somebody Cares. We got an event coming up, and we try to network with as many people and build relationships so we could be hands and feet to work together in our communities with the faith-based church and government. So on October the 26th from 11 to 1 at Fall Fest at Waterfront Park, 8119 Old Post Road, Faith in Blue will be there. That's an organization. There's a lot of churches coming together. There'll probably be 400 or 500 people come through. We're going to give candy away. The police will be there. The fire department will be there. Hope you'll be there and your family. It's a good time to work together in the community. And also there will be fish fry. They will have hot dogs, and there'll be, of course, a prayer tent for those who want it. There'll be worship and music there, and there'll be building relationship, just public relationship, just reaching out, businesses and communities come together, praying and networking and seeing how we could continue to learn from the storms and trials and tribulations we go through and be ready for the next event where we could have fun, but in a disaster come together again. You know, there's like you got food out there. Our church was given a lot of food as well to distribute to work from those in the park to send them over to get food when they was getting hot meals from Waterfront Park. You know, we had a lot of different organizations come through there. You got food here as well. I'll be dropping some more food off later on tomorrow as well, and that come from right here in our area with Volunteer Way on Congress. They give us 8 pallets to distribute to our city, to our community for those in need. And we do just continue to help our businesses and our neighbors and the resident working together. So, you know, I like to say it like this without preaching to you. You know, we got those who talk about doing, and you got those who do it. To me, they're the talkers. Thank you, and blessings all in Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Dan. Next up, I have Joe Scandioto. I think he left. So moving on to Barbara Downs. Welcome.
Barbara Downs, 4930 Caney Court, Port Richey. I've been a resident of Port Richey for 40 years. Our neighborhood is in disaster. We don't know when anything's going to be done. When is the trash going to be picked up? I mean, it was nice that you mentioned the food and that, but I'm 83 years old. Where do I get this information? Right now, I don't see very well. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to have laser surgery on Friday. But I appreciate the police department coming through. We haven't had any problems with vandalism and that, except for the kids playing with the bowling ball down the street. But, you know, I love the neighborhood. I will probably live here until I die. But gee whiz, I sure would like that garbage off my front lawn and my neighbor's lawn, because who knows what rodents are out there. We have no information. At least I don't. Maybe younger people that can use the computer, fine and dandy. But right now, it's a standstill. What do I do next?
Yeah, so I will tell you that in Matt's comments coming up, he's going to talk about the debris pickup. So that'll give you some information on where we're at with that. So if you want to hang tight, you'll hear that straight from the horse's mouth.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next up, I have Chris Mayer. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Chris Mayer, 5342 Blue Point Drive here in Port Richey. I've only been here for about 10 years, just a lot less than my friend over here. We just went through one of the most horrific things that I've been through in my life. You know, my daughter and I swam from our house to the neighbor's house, at times going under the water. It was rough. So I share with you this because what a great opportunity, like Danny said, for the community to come together, help one another, show them who we are, why we take their tax dollars and all these things. You know, there's folks on my street and the following streets, older folks that have no idea what they're going to do. They're just now starting to get the moldy crap out of their houses. And, you know, some of this stuff ends up on the street, some ends up the back door. I heard some rumors about one of the people on my street getting cited for a hot water heater in their backyard. I thought, that's not good. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying I heard it. You know, I saw a letter that was sent to me that came out from Nancy, our city attorney, that was, you know, talking about, you know, if you're going to replace your drywall, permits, blah, 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 blah. Listen, a lot of these folks, they don't have any money. They don't have any money left. They're barely making it right now, and we just took everything they had and threw it in a bucket of water and threw it out on the streets. So I think we need to be gentle with these folks. You know, I haven't seen anybody going around there, pop, 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 about no permits. But, you know, I think we need to think hard and long about that because people have been here for 15, 20 years who know how to put drywall on their walls or whatever the replacement water board is going to be. I don't think we need to go out there starting. This is not a time for us to go out there wielding our permit power. So I think we should think long and hard about that. I think we're probably going to talk about that tonight. You know, these folks are folks that are barely making it as it is. And now all of a sudden you've got these contractors coming around, and I've seen some of these estimates. $140,000, you know, and up. And these people are desperate people that are single people that don't have any out or any other things to do. So whatever it is we need to do, I think we should continue that because this storm has brought together the love of a community. I've talked to neighbors I never even talked to before. You know, I've spent hours consulting them and telling them what they should be doing. This is stuff we never did before. This is an opportunity for us to grow as a city. You guys did a fantastic bang-up job when it comes to getting that trash out of there before the storm because I thought for sure this Cat 5 was coming along and that trash was going to projectile. So thank you for doing that. Veronica's done a great job communicating with me as far as opening our new business in the city here. We're working hard to do that, and thank you for that, too. I just want to say that we probably need to put on kid gloves and be gentle with these people because they've been through a lot. All right? That's it. Thank you all for what you do.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
That's all the sign-ups I have. By show of hands, anyone else like to speak? General comments? Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Torrance, 8119 Channel Drive. And I don't know if it's on the agenda or not, but the 50% rule, are y'all going to talk about that?
No. But you can make comments on that one.
Okay, I have a question about it because
Not that at all.
I've had my adjuster come out from FEMA. He couldn't answer the question. And he told me it's going to be 85 days before he knows what my amount will be. So I got to wait 85 days for me to come to that 50% rule to rebuild. So I'm going to sit there for 85 days and do nothing. So what I'm trying to say is, y'all put this down here where if we do rebuild, we won't be able to get insurance the way I understand it. And I could be completely wrong, but that's what I want somebody to explain it to me. Because I've asked my insurance adjuster. I had asked the code fella today, happened to come by my house and give me a packet that y'all have out here, which was nice and everything. So I'm not getting answers. My insurance company, the desk adjuster, they assign a desk adjuster to every claim. They're not answering it either. So what I'm trying to say is, at what point will I know that I can rebuild what I have, or either I have to raise what I have, or raise it, or start over again? And is there any way that we can get an answer to that sooner than waiting on FEMA?
Is there anybody here with a similar question on the 50% rule?
I have lots of questions about that because I'm getting asked lots of questions from the community and I'm not able to give them accurate answers.
So why don't we?
Under my comments.
So what we'll do is when he goes to his comments, we'll have Veronica address some of that to get some of that information here in a meeting.
Yeah, didn't I speak to you? I think I spoke to her the other day about it, but it's not being answered, I guess, correctly, or it's not being clear. on what we need to do here and everything. The other thing too is like he said, there's a rumor out there, at least on my road, there's an accumulative amount of damage. Okay, meaning that from last year's storm, I got flooded in that one. I had just moved here and got damaged on that. And they're saying that they can add that one and this one and come up with that 50% rule. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, so just on that particular question, it's a year in the city. Some cities can make things more strict. I think Newport Richey has like a 5-year rolling period, but in Port Richey, we just have a 1-year rolling period.
Okay.
That 1 year, there's a cumulative. So let's say 6 months ago, you put a roof on. That would go towards that 50%. So that is a fact.
Okay, so I'm like 10,000 away from saying, and I know I had that much damage already, you know. So, and that was 13. What Adelia was 13 months ago. So, I mean, is that close enough that you're going to?
Well, it depends on when the work was done or whatever. If it's outside the year, it's
See, that's another thing. I had to wait. I mean, I did some of the work and everything, but I didn't have enough money to do it all. So I'm definitely within that year.
right. Well, and I would assume that. But let's say that obviously Vidalia happened. It was over a year, barely, right? But people didn't fix their stuff that next day. Let's say that a couple months went by. That's when their year clock starts, from the time they did that work. So technically, if they say 11 months into that, they had another event, which is 10 or 11 months. If they waited to do that work a couple months from there, does that satisfy that 50% rule?
As long as it's out of the year.
Yeah.
As long as it exceeds the year, you're fine. But if it falls within the year, then you fall in that 50%.
So how is that right? I mean, you know, because what I'm,
I don't think I spoke to you, but
okay,
I spoke to somebody at staff.
I did.
Yeah, because I would have remembered.
Okay.
But we could talk about it.
Yeah, because like I said, if that's the case, then I'm definitely, I'm out, you know. And I don't want to, you know, my adjuster told me the other day, he says, put a door on this because your house is not even secure right now. You know, I don't want to spend any more money if I'm going to be in that boat. You know, I'm going to be throwing away, you know, bad money after more bad money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we need to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I understand your concerns. Like I said, you're not alone in it.
Everybody on my street. Because there's only 2 people on my street on Channel that I know did not get water from Adelia. Okay. So,
Yeah. No, I empathize with you. Like I said, I understand it's a wide scale problem, not only here in Port Richey, but up and down the coast. A lot of people are going to find themselves in a situation. So I don't know that it's a FEMA rule that the reason that's there. And so what happens is, just in general terms, is in order to participate with FEMA and for them to do our community rating, right? That's where we get our discounts for our flood insurance. In the city, we have 15%, right? In order to participate in that, we got to follow their rules, and that rule is one of their rules. 50%. Once you reach 50% damage to your home or above, then you have to raise it out of the flood plain in order to continue in that program. Otherwise, they don't like to fix it. And then now cities can come back and say, you know, in an effort to try to get people in the air to mitigate that flood to get higher discounts, we can make those rules more strict. And we haven't here in the city. We're still the 1-year rolling period and the 50%. And is a look back period, is that minimum 1 year for them? Or is that the look back period for 1 year? Is that part of the minimum standard for FEMA, or is that 1 year 50%? That is the minimum that you can have in order to participate in FEMA's program, that they provide insurance. So what happens is let's say that the city says, no, we're not going to do that, right? Well, then nobody insures properties here, and so if somebody comes in and buy a mortgage that requires flood insurance, they can't get it. Or some insurance company is going to come in at some exorbitant amount of rate in order to do that. It comes cost prohibitive to own a home. So you really need to participate in that program to be able to have flood insurance. But with that, by doing that, they're not going to let people just continue to have repetitive loss after repetitive loss after repetitive loss. And so that's why that rule's there. And so, again, given the wide scale damage up and down the coast, I don't know if FEMA will come out. I mean, as I put the bug in Washington's ear that, hey, we're going to potentially have a crisis here. A lot of people could potentially lose their homes. We need to look at this. But as of right now, that rule exists, and we've got to deal with that.
Is there anything in place then to help the people that need to raise their homes?
Oh, yes, there's grant programs to do that. Yeah.
I did look into that, 4.5 years,
Yeah. It's
waiting period.
no quick fix for sure.
That's not true?
That's not true.
Okay.
I contacted them this afternoon. You're not the only resident I've heard that from. I've heard it from multiple residents. That is not the case. You just have to qualify for that elevation lift, but the FEMA grants are still available.
Okay. All right.
So we'll talk a bit more about it here in his comments or whatever, but understand that the situation's out there, and that's probably a fluid situation that's going to go on in conversation past this. But as of right now, that is pretty much the truth. There is a 50% rule, and in the city, it's a year look back period, and so we've got to figure out how to deal with that going forward.
Okay.
Thanks. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, see no hands. I'll bring it back to council. Next up is comments from the general city manager. I pass to Mr. Copper for his comments. Oh, somebody. Oh, Copper, welcome.
I have a question first. Can we have an exchange, you and I? Because you know what I want to talk about.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, guys, sometimes in my council meetings, you're not allowed to share at the point. You can do it at the comments later on. Anyhow, I'm Chopper Davis. I live at 6110 Florida Avenue, Newport Richey. And on a positive note, I know in years down the road, we'll be talking about the 100th anniversary, which ours is in a week, and yours is in about 6 months. They'll probably talk more about the storms, and they'll talk about the events that went on. But I'm inviting everybody to come to Newport Richey this weekend. It's our 100th anniversary, and we're having events starting Saturday and Sunday in Sims Park. A lot of family events, a picnic on Sunday and stuff. But there's something else that's going to go on, and since your anniversary is on May 20th, I'm going to bring up a paddle on the Witches and Warlocks event, which is Sunday. We start at Sims Park at noon, and we'll be probably in where we're going to meet.
Nix Park.
Yeah, what?
Nix Park.
Nix Park, probably somewhere around 12:45, and I'm going to pass a paddle, and the paddle's going to your anniversary, which is in May. And you want to add some more?
Yeah, so I was actually going to put a plug in. Obviously, Newport Richey's celebrating their 100-year anniversary this year, and it's this weekend is their finale. I think they have a drone show on Saturday night and some other activities over the weekend, and then Sunday, part of the Witches and Warlocks, he's got a centennial paddle that he's going to pass from his city to ours, and so I want to make sure that if you guys want to come out, Nix Park, probably 12:45, they'll pass that paddle to the city.
I'll be dressed like a warlock, though, not a mayor.
And, well, basically, how you're dressed now is maybe with a hat or something, probably. Yeah.
But anyhow, I just want to, the two of us are welcoming you to come down to Nix Park. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anyone else? Okay, I'll pass it to Mr. Copper for his comments.
Thank you. Good evening. I wanted to address the debris cleanup update, and I provided to council in my written comments a couple of different attachments. The first attachment is a map of the city, and you'll see that the orange areas on that map indicate where the city has completed, either ourselves with our crews or with contractors, the first pass of debris pickup. The yellow streets are those areas that we know have debris on them, and we haven't undertaken either by our staff or through a contractor yet to get that debris picked up for the first time. The second attachment is what I'm provided from Tetra Tech, and you might remember that in one of our meetings we did a piggyback agreement, a cooperative agreement with Tetra Tech to actually do monitoring of the company that we selected through the cooperative agreement through the county, which is DRC, for the construction and debris cleanup. And so they track every load that goes to the demolition or EMS site, where it goes and then ultimately goes to the landfill. And you can see that as of the printing of this one, I think the number has probably gone up since I printed this off. We were at 1,727 cubic yards. That's over a 6-day period. Our crews are up to, we're estimating about 2,500 cubic yards. We don't have the exact number yet for what we did between Helene and Milton, which is basically a 2-day grab and go. So we'll have those numbers here probably in the next couple of days to understand how much we've actually collected since Helene hit the city. You might remember that I estimated early on about 33,000 cubic yards. That number has since gone up to about 50,000 cubic yards. And again, those are estimates. You know, we don't have the ability to go out and measure each pile. So I'm hoping that's a worst case scenario, but we'll see when all is said and done. The city is on a 7-day collection schedule, so it means every day we're going to have crews in the city picking up both the crew from DRC that we have right now, as well as our city crews. We were able to get out of the 24-hour requirement because we have less than 100,000 cubic yards of materials estimated, but we're still trying to collect on a 7-day period. And based upon the State Department of Emergency Management, we have a 90-day deadline, which began October 13th, to collect everything at the curbside. Now, those are pretty easy things to say. What makes this a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging is actually doing it, and the rules are being put in place by FEMA. So, you know, obviously we don't want to wait till January 11th to have everything picked up. So our schedule is a lot more aggressive. We'd like to have it done within a 45-day period, preferably even quicker than that. But to do that, we would have to be at about 1,000 cubic yards a day, which is not where we're at. We're about 555 cubic yards a day. So we're not, while we're meeting the 90-day requirement, we're not meeting our 45-day target. One of the issues is the contractor that we selected through the cooperative agreement from the county, DRC, has not provided adequate resources. And so what happened is, talking with everyone, I'm trying to create exactly what happened because everyone has a different story as to what happened. But at some point before Milton, the state DOT put out a new schedule for debris management collection, and that was considerably higher than everybody else was paying. And so a lot of the resources went to the state. Soon after that, some of the counties in the south piggybacked the state contract, which drew even more resources, which left not a lot of vehicles and equipment here in Pasco County. And actually at the time, both Philip and Jordan, which is the other contractor the county has, lost a lot of equipment to the southern counties. Since then, the county has put out a emergency request for proposals from both their contractors. Phillips and Jordan put together a package. DRC has not put together a package. And so probably the DRC is going to be non-performed here shortly by the state, or excuse me, by the county, which is going to have an impact on us. So we have a lot of issues that are keeping us from getting target, which is that 1,000 cubic yards a day. In addition to that, we have the need to do things in a manner that's going to assure that we get reimbursed from the federal government. And so there is a very large manual, a thick, that we have to follow. And I've heard, well, why don't you get that company back that we had in there in 2 days, did a lot of collection? Well, that was under a different set of rules than where we're at now. Both the state and FEMA have let us know that we are not in an emergency situation any longer. That passed when the bill passed. So we have to go back to the way that FEMA says we have to do it to be able to get reimbursed. Now, I want everybody to understand the magnitude of what we're talking about in terms of collection. We're probably looking north of $3 million. That would definitely eat up most of our fund balance very quickly. One of the things that we've done to mitigate that is we've already applied to FEMA to get an expedited application in. And part of the expedited application is we can get 50% of what our estimate is given to us up front. So we are working through that, through different contracts we have. And one of the things, of course, is hanging us up is we may not have a contract any longer, and we're going to have to do something with that. But we can get 50% of this up front, and then through the expedited, the reimbursements come at a faster pace. Give you kind of understanding of what pace it moves on right now. We just received a $60,000 check, which is 2/3 of what we're supposed to get from Idalia.
Here we go.
So that's how long it took under a non-expedited application. And so other places I've been where we went through an expedited application, it was 30 to 45 days. And, the hope with this is as, we get funding up front that will front it, pay it, and as we pay more, we get, the reimbursement back from the federal government to cover, what those remaining costs are, so it doesn't have a negative impact on the city's finances. Short of that, the finance director is looking at different ways to get a low interest loan short term to be able to help, again, cover this cost. We don't have to take out money from our investments, which would have a negative impact on next year or the current year's budget. So we're trying to avoid that. All that is being said that we're doing a lot of things to try to manage the debris that's at the curbside. We haven't put out a collection schedule because, again, our resources, generally we have 2 crews out there. We have a water leak, we don't have 2 crews out. We have something else go on, we don't have any crews out. So it's hard really to predict where and when we're going to be at any given time. Again, based upon the map that you're seeing, we've made steady progress over the last few weeks, nowhere close to where we want to be. I know that we're almost finished with the south side. We'll be able to start moving resources in. One of the issues we have in the cul-de-sac streets is the equipment that DRC has provided to us does not really fit well into that. In fact, their first foray, they were supposed to start in the Harbor Isles area, and that's what they took out cable lines, if I'm not mistaken, while they're going back there. And so it's just not the right piece of equipment to do the work. What our crews are doing, have the right equipment to get in there, and we'll get to all these streets as soon as the resources allow. If we can get more resources in, we'll get that done.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So once they go down the street, that's it?
So
The reason I'm asking is because a lot of people, they're putting all their personal possessions out on the street, and then at a later time, they're removing their interior construction, and everything's been picked up out front. Now what?
Yeah, so under the challenges to completion in my memo, the first thing that I call attention to is that in the October 16th memorandum from FEMA, they indicate very clearly that they pay for the first pass. Now, let me just say that in a period of probably 3 days, FEMA put out 2 different memos that address similar topics. So we're hoping that there will be another clarification or another waiver to that. Because again, Port Richey, like a lot of communities, have the same issue. We spend a lot of time trying to collect this as quickly as possible. And where I know people want this taken up quickly, the problem with doing it quickly is we get ahead of the residents. I mean, there were streets that we did, and the next day it was full again. And again, that wasn't necessarily because the residents weren't doing everything they could to address it. They just may not have had the resources at the time to get there. And we saw that with a lot of volunteer labor coming into the city to help residents. They couldn't get there. We made the pass, and now it's out at the curb. And it's going to be an issue that we are going to have to address. If FEMA says one pass, it's going to be one pass. And then if we make a second pass, it's going to be on our dime. And so let's hope that FEMA will change that policy, but we can't guarantee it. So we have to be prepared for the thought that we're going to be spending money that we're not going to get reimbursed for. And again, I think that's, my third point, addressing the FEMA memorandum. There is a lot of concern because all those waivers only exist for counties that are considered high impact. Ask me how many counties right now are considered high impact.
Probably half of them.
How many counties are high impact?
There hasn't been any determination on that yet.
Wow.
So, so with that being said, all those waivers that was in the October 16th memo may not even apply to us if the county or the state comes back and says Pasco County is not a high impact county. Now, I don't know under what definition we wouldn't be a high impact county, but again, that is up to the state as well as FEMA to make that decision. So understanding that, the procurement policies under an emergency are different than under non-emergencies. And I think I may have said earlier that we're no longer considered to be in an emergency. And so we have to follow what our purchasing policies are and what the state's purchasing policies are if ours don't address it. And even more importantly, we have to follow what FEMA's purchasing policies are. And
Is that appealable in some form?
well, it definitely helps maybe to be talking to our state and federal officials pretty soon, because again, if we don't get one, we're going to have to be just pounding people to try to get that, because it's again right off the bat we're going to have issues. And so that's my concern in this, that as much as we would all like to get the trash picked up as quickly as possible, and doing that, unfortunately, has put us at a little bit of risk now, where we may not be able to get the full reimbursement. But again, it may change, because all they have to do is put a memo out and it changes what they're going to do. And so we can only hope that that's ultimately what happens with the debris collection.
When you talk about we're not in an emergency, even though we actually are still in a state of emergency.
Yes.
Those are two different things, I guess, right?
Yep. Yeah, so there's two different definitions. I can't think of the first word. I was on a webinar earlier today with the state and FEMA, and they use a lot of acronyms. But and so there isn't an immediate emergency happening. Again, when Milton was storming at us, there was an immediate emergency, and so a lot of the rules could be waived. But as soon as that left, we no longer was in that emergency situation. And, because believe me, we thought about these things. Well, there's a health emergency, because, vermin and all the pestilence and all this stuff, right, is coming from that. But again, what I was told is, those type of things are not considered an emergency according to FEMA. So we're probably going to be relying, as we put the applications together and do all of the work that we need to do, we're going to be focusing more on public interest than on emergencies with this, because it's in the public interest to take care of these issues. It's definitely going to be a financial burden and affect the recovery of our area, which is another area that we're going to be leaning on. And only a part of what we're going to be seeking reimbursement for is considered emergency, which is that time frame in between Helene and the onset of Milton. So there's a lot to be done with that. So, again, we're doing about 555 cubic yards a day, almost half of where we want to be. We'll be trying to get more resources if DRC does not provide them. We've already made contact with Phillips and Jordan, which is the other contractor through the county. We may be having a special meeting to approve that agreement in the next few days.
So in a nutshell for the public, obviously, that are dealing with the trash out there, and I feel for you. Green Street I live on, same situation, hadn't been touched yet. And so I drive by that trash all the time. It stinks. So I know y'all are dealing with a lot, and it's a bad situation. But again, the only alternative that we have as a city is to spend your tax dollars and not get reimbursed for it. And that's what you get to show for your tax dollars, is that we picked up the trash quickly. And so to be good stewards of that and to do other things, obviously we want to maximize that full FEMA 100% reimbursement so it doesn't cost the community anything. And so, but by doing that, there's some inconvenience involved because we're tied to government processes, and we all know that sometimes that aren't the most efficient processes and not the most forgiving processes either. So we're working through those. I did talk to Matt today. Senator Rick Scott reached out to me before the hurricane to let me know if we need anything, to reach out to him. I'm waiting to make those phone calls. Once we have a good need to do so, I will make those phone calls and try to get some push to get some of the stuff rectified. But as Matt stated, things are kind of fluid. FEMA changes things. We're working through this, so give us a little time. Like I said, it's if we haven't forgotten about it. I know you see that trash every day, but we're very well aware that it's there, and we'll get it out there as soon as we can, and hopefully at a cost of somebody else's money besides ours. So, did you want to make comments on the 50% rule stuff now?
Well, I was going to let Veronica address that if she's able. Can it go over the 50% rule?
I can put a packet together and discuss that. This way I can answer everyone's questions and ask that. We can even hold a workshop if you think that would be good. I mean, there's a lot of information that I think citizens need to be aware of, and I don't want to just blurt things out, and this way they're better educated with it.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good thing to do, maybe, is to have that meeting to allow residents come in and understand that. But just a quick overview of it, if you could.
Of the 50%
Yeah,
rule?
yeah.
Sure. So we don't go into homes and assess the homes and say, come out with a number. You go and you get a contractor that gives you a number of what that cost can be to put the home back into the pre-storm status. We go off of unless you have a private appraisal that was done within the last year, or we can go by the property appraiser's 50%, just your building value. And we also put it online too at www.cityofportritchie.gov. And it also gives you a little bit of a breakdown of how that 50% and how we assess that 50%. So once we get that information, then we can better assess it. But everybody's home is going to be unique to what they had or what is there. So I really want to put more information together so that I can better educate everyone, and so that people aren't afraid or thinking we're going to tear your house down, you can see at 50%, because that's not the case. That's not how that works. There's a process and there's guidelines that we have to follow per FEMA rules and for our ordinances and codes as well. So our intent is not to do that, but to educate and give you all of the information out there for that.
Thanks, Veronica.
Can I say one?
Give me a second for if you go out on our website, and I know if obviously you can't do that or whatever on the computer or whatever, obviously stop by City Hall. We can get you a printout of this. There's a packet that Veronica has in the building department, and there's a lot of information there. One of the things that is out there on some numbers. So when you're trying to figure out where your specific situation is, what it says to do is you go out to the Pasco County appraiser site and you would look up your property. You would see what the building value is, not what you pay taxes on after all the deductions on it, but actually what the assessed value of the property before any discounts for the building. Then count your land, just the building portion of it. So let's, for example, I think they use let's use an example of $200,000. Right? Well, then what you do is you take that times 115%, So they bump it up 15% of whatever that value is. So it'd be 230,000, right? My math is correct. So that's your 230,000. So then you would have 115,000 would be the 50% mark of that. So that's kind of how, if you can figure out where you're at. And so as you go through your insurance claim, or if you have insurance, whatever the contractor does to give you an estimate of what it takes to get that. Once you get to that $115,000 or above, then you're in a situation of, are you able to do anything without raising your home? And if you find yourself in that quick math that you do with all that, reach out to us, because there may be some wiggle room in that, the way numbers are processed or whatever, if it's close. Now, if you're at 230 and you're 230 to fix it, you're probably not going to get there. And so that's another conversation. There are programs out there to help do that. We have grant programs in place, but again, if you got to raise your home, that's a big cost. And so you have to make a decision on how to deal with that. Unless things change as we go forward, because like I said, there's a lot of people that could be in that situation. I'd even say probably a crisis down the coast. That there's going to be a lot of people that may be losing their homes depending on the amount of damage and the valuations. So there may be changes to that. Like I said, this is kind of a extreme event. So hopefully there might be some latitude given. Maybe they'll make some changes. But again, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's all about FEMA, tax-funded emergency service that the government provides. They don't want to keep doling out money for properties that are going to have repetitive losses. So the idea is to get them up in the air, or get people out of them, and not live there. So
in the lobby, also on that table, there's those same packets that the mayor is speaking of. And there's also, if you're interested in the FEMA lift elevation, I created a flyer. There's one out there as well. My cards are out there. They're also here. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll try to guide you and help you as best as we can.
and I'll give you a little more detail on that. So and this is something that maybe could change, just for an example, right? So let's say that you want to do your own flooring that got damaged. And so there's no labor costs there. Well, under the current rules, you just can't provide free labor. There has to be a market rate of labor that gets figured into that, even if you're doing it for free. So all that cost goes into the job towards that 50%, right? Maybe they can, as we look at this, not us, but the federal government, maybe they allow for some of that changes to allow you to actually take a free labor if you're doing it yourself, to try to keep you on that. Again, I don't know what may come in the future, but as of right now, that you can't just say, I'm going to do it all myself. That's not going to be a labor to keep your costs down. It's based on a market rate. Is that right? Market rate, I guess, whatever. Right. And then, there's you got to think of this. There's a lot of things you don't need permits for, like to replace your floor. You don't need a permit, correct? Correct. So when you come to the city with your permits, it's not just the permit costs. Because it's a flood event, you have to include all things to get it back the way it was. Flooring, for be another example, which would be a significant cost, has to be included in that number. Even though you don't technically need a permit for it, still needs to go in that calculation. So again, maybe that's something. Maybe they'll make some modifications given a situation that's only permitted stuff. Again, don't know what's going to happen in the future. But as you go through and to put your house back together, you're going to go through those line items of what flooring, drywall work, even painting. I think is included on this. So all that stuff, and painting. How much costs the paint? All that goes in that calculation. So again, you can see you have these costs get up there pretty quickly, given the amount of damage that was done.
In that packet, there's a list of everything that qualifies in the 50% and things that can not be qualified in the 50%. And it's broken down. So I really urge you to grab a packet on your way out on the table, and it breaks it down for you. It just simplifies it, because there's a lot of things that you probably don't need.
And I'll say our building department is up here that people can reach out to. I don't know if you guys thought about it or not, but maybe having a couple workshops here at City Hall or something where people could come in and get information. I don't know if that's oh, I missed it. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So let forthcoming schedule some workshops, and there'll be opportunities to kind of learn the process. Again, it's very fluid. Hopefully there'll be some adjustments made. But again, as the rule is right now in the city of Port Richey, we've got a year look back period. 50% is the cutoff. So obviously, if you get close to that, reach out, and we'll work with you the best we can, given that, and we'll forward that information up to see if there's anything to be done. But that's kind of the premise we'll be working under. So I don't want to take questions, but did you have a question?
I want to say.
If you come back, Chloe, just since we're talking about that, I want to make sure everybody gets the right information.
Okay, last year, I actually had a FEMA adjuster, not an independent contractor, that came and did my house. And you're talking about the labor costs and everything, because I did most of it myself. They do not pay you, and they will not give you a value if you build it yourself. They won't put a number on that, so that won't apply, according to the FEMA guy. And I have his number, his name, everything, but that's what he told me, because I told him I was going to probably rebuild it. That's what I've done it for 40 years, So anyway, so that was that. The other thing is where do they come up with the number? Okay, because I know how much I was paid from my insurance, okay? But where do you, like if I came in here and I said to Veronica, okay, how close am I to the 50% rule? How do you?
Like I stated earlier, we don't come up with that number. You have to seek a licensed contractor. So I urge you to reach out to a contractor to tell you what the cost is to put your home back to where it was pre-storm. We go off of that cost.
Okay.
We don't make up numbers. We don't assess those. We assess the property damage, and we look and see what your contract, what you have when you submit an application for a permit.
Okay, so back to my Adalia. So Flowcon was a company that did tear out and reconstruction. I had them come in and do the tear out because I had not done before and everything, but I've rebuilt homes. Their initial costs for tear out and rebuild exceeded the 50% rule, because I already pulled my structure number and everything at that time. So at that point in time, I was way above that number, just from there. But it was a quarter of that to put it back to actually better than it was.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, I would just encourage you and anybody else, obviously, that's dealing with that. Work with the building department. They'll walk you through the process. Forms out there, put together. Again, stuff in the past. For Adalia, how many permits do we have to fix that stuff? Not a lot, I think, right? So
To date?
Adalia last year.
Oh, that was not good.
Yeah. So there.
Not many people applied for permits, and it's very, very critical that people apply for permits, because that can be audited. And so when the state or the feds are putting out X amount of dollars and we're not seeing the permits come through the office, that's not matching. That's the issue. Be aware of scammers. Be aware. Don't call the building department and ask if they're registered with us. We'd be more than happy to help you. There's 3 of us on, plus a code enforcement officer, so we will try to get to everybody. We've been on the phones all day. We will try to answer everyone's questions as best as we can. But there's people out there that are saying they're from FEMA and they're showing an ID that says it's from FEMA, and they're fake. They're not true. So be very cautious of who you're giving money to, and call us before you do anything.
Yeah, please engage the building department. Like I said, you're here on the agenda coming up. One of the items is to waive the permit fees. So there's no reason why people shouldn't be reaching out, work with the building department, and do that. Obviously, once that is addressed, and if it passes, which I'd hope it would. So we'll address it tonight. So after tonight, you'll know definitively that that's the case. Like I said, please engage the building department, work with them. And as a city, we'll do everything we can to help you, and we'll advocate for you where we can. So, anything else on your comments? Okay. That being said, we'll move on to comments from the mayor and city council. I'll start with my left with Councilwoman Burke.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez. Councilman Mueller.
The only thing that I want to make sure that we're aware of is the debris that has flown into the canal between Blue Point and Quist. Just like they're removing debris from Clearwater and all the other beaches that had sand in the streets, I want to ensure that we get that addressed, because now it's blocking not only my house, my neighbor's house, the neighbor across. It's moved that all those oyster shells into the center of the canal, and now it's a major obstruction.
I know that. Did you get more information back from that one vendor if they're going to honor? Yeah, so they're still going to do that. It's okay. So just so you're aware that the one right before the Milton,
It's coming around every 2 weeks.
yeah, volunteered to go ahead and do that for us. So hopefully that'll be taken care of.
It's not going off my list, is what I'm saying.
Sure. Checks in the mail, as
Yep.
they say. Anything else?
Oh, because of the 2 storms that occurred, I'd like to see some leniency given to trailers, trash, and 12 inches of grass being written up in with the code enforcement. I think people have enough other things to worry about that we need to put a 6-month moratorium on that so that they can concentrate on other things that are more important than that. People are going to be living in their front yards and trailers, and I know we already have a 180-day exemption for that. Like myself, I can't get my boat back on the lift right now. But that's just me. But there's other people in other situations. So I would like a moratorium placed on trailers, trash, and debris in the front yards, because after so many days, we're not going to be able to pick it up 90 days and then give them another 90 days to clear, as well as 12 inches of grass. Those 3 items, and blue tarps on the roof, those are the 4 items that probably surface the most in the code enforcement, and I think we can forego that for a 6-month period to address.
Nancy, what is the legal avenue to do something like that?
The trailer, as you know, part of that has to do with FEMA also. So that I would need to look into. I know some other areas that we represent have already addressed that. So we will find a way to address that legally to let you remove that requirement should you collectively choose to do so.
Didn't we have this discussion?
You're off.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I turned it on.
Right now,
Sorry.
we're following FEMA's regulations. He's suggesting we go further than that.
Wait a minute.
I believe.
There's 2 different questions here. One, the travel trailers or RVs that people are living in their yards. We already have that within our code.
Yes.
Right.
What I'm suggesting is things like boats that can no longer sit in somebody's canal because of other issues, right? Lifts can't get motors back in place. I mean, there's a whole myriad of problems.
So boat trailers, I guess.
Yeah, boat trailers, whatever. Yeah, they're going to be out.
So would that be citywide or just for those affected?
I would think so.
You would need to make it city. I think
Yeah.
the safest way. If you want to put a pause on anything that's within your code, you need to make it effective to everybody. So if those are the 4 things. I have boats in yards that normally couldn't be there.
Yeah,
Trash and debris.
trash and debris, 12-inch,
Grass,
greater
blue
than
tarps.
12 inches of grass, and then blue tarps on the roof.
Let me look at the codes themselves and see what we need to do to pause those.
That's going to be a resolution or something to.
Boats and boat trailers.
Yes.
Is that so? Is there any opposed to Nancy looking into that and moving forward on that?
Nope.
Okay. Did it?
Yeah, that's it.
Councilman Hubbard?
No, I don't have anything to say.
Okay. The obviously Chopper took the words out of my mouth again. If you do get time, celebrate Port Richey's 100-year anniversary with those guys this weekend. Participate on Sunday when they hand the paddle to us. Obviously, if council come down to Nix Park, that'd be great to receive that. And just again, just a general apology for everybody, everything you're going through. I know I feel for you. I didn't get hit as bad. I did get some water in my home. I didn't lose everything, thank goodness. But I know a lot of folks did, and it really hurts my heart. And I almost feel guilty for not having that kind of water in my home. So my heart goes out to you. And just know that we're here for you. I appreciate the staff that you guys work tirelessly to try to do that. And I know it probably doesn't look like that to the residents that drive by that garbage, but they really are working hard. And we're a small city, and so we can only do so much. And so again, my heart goes out to you. Anything you need, please reach out. We'll do our best to try to make it happen for you. Okay. Sure.
I would also like to thank all the efforts of all the police, fire, utility guys, and Matt and his staff for the tireless effort that they contributed to ensuring that safety was maintained in the city. People were made aware of where they can get food and shelter and the need to remove themselves from the area. And I certainly appreciate all that he's done. He's really been an asset to this community, as well as all of our.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, comments from boards, committees. Do we have any boards, committees comments? Carl, welcome.
Carl Roth, 8031 Island Drive, Port Richey, Florida. I'm here tonight as the chairman of the 2125 Coastal Resiliency and Restoration Committee. I sent a memo Sunday to the council members to have a decision tonight at this meeting. Basically, I'm asking for the removal of Alan Rose from the committee. He's failed to put the city's interests first. His lack of credibility at Pasco County and complete disregard to the workings of the committee are creating dysfunction, unnecessary distraction, and damaged our credibility at the start of our efforts as we're just trying to get moving. He's acknowledged receiving cease and desist rulings from the county as a result of activities it's undertaken at Hudson Beach with no scientific basis, and continues bypassing the committee, effectively moving forward and communicating with the county outside of the roles that we've identified in the committee. Newport Richey and others that what we want to do is, in order to move the committee forward, we want to clarify to potential outside partners such as Pasco County, Newport Richey, and others that we're serious about our efforts. Alan Rose must be removed from the committee. Given the damage already caused by his continued actions, the best message that can be sent from the city to outsiders is for his active removal by the council tonight versus a resignation on his part. We've already done damage control. We can't continue to do it, and we need a decision tonight. We've only had 2 meetings so far. We're starting to get moving, but this distraction is a non-starter. So I'm asking for that decision here and now.
So just to check with Nancy, these committee members, they serve at the pleasure of the council. Does it need to be brought before that committee for recommendation for removal or anything? We can act on that.
I am trying to find the resolution. I didn't know this was an issue, so I'm looking for the resolution right now to see what the wording is within the resolution. But usually, yes, that is the case. But let me verify.
And once you look at that, obviously this 2125 committee, Coastal Resiliency Restoration, extremely important to the city of Port Richey. And the last thing that we need is some individual or anything to cause issues with our county, any governing body that we need to work with to make stuff like that happen. And so this, and I respect Carl for bringing it to us. Obviously, you being the chair of the committee, it's very important that you bring these types of issues to us. So once Nancy clarifies, I'd entertain a motion to remove Alan from the committee.
I do not have a copy of that resolution in my.
It's the last paragraph.
It's a charter. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, that's right.
Not the resolution actually made the committee. So if you want to pause or continue, we can come back to this. Whatever you'd like to do.
Did you have any more comments about?
Just that we got started, and I need an answer.
Okay. Why don't we? I'll go ahead and once you check on that, did the CAC meet?
No,
Okay.
yes.
Maybe other sports committees. I can talk about the Centennial Committee. So the Centennial Committee met, and we have a list of events that we went through. We had a workshop, and we went through and kind of prioritized grouped those events together and kind of put them to the calendar. And so we've kind of got that laid out. That's in the city's hands now to kind of put that calendar together, formalize it to bring it back to council. Actually, they'll bring it back to our committee just for final check to make sure everything's right and any tweaks. And then that'll come to council at the next meeting to bless that event list for Centennial events. Lots of good stuff on there. We're doing 100 days of the Centennial starting beginning of February 6th, 7th, something like that is the first day of the 100 days. And we have something scheduled pretty much every 2 weeks. So there'll be some event going on and maybe two, and then there'll be a week off and then followed up by another week of events all the way up until the main Centennial week where we'll have the main festivities. So it's a pretty good schedule, lots of good stuff. Once we solidify that through council, then we also start looking at doing some subcommittees to work on those individual events going forward. That's pretty much all I have from the Centennial Committee. Is it okay to talk about the logo? So another issue that came up, obviously, the council voted on the logo that the committee recommended. That logo, the picture that was used, we reached out to, staff reached out to the individual that made the logo, used a photo of that stilt home. They didn't take themselves, and so they reached out to that artist, and that artist took the picture, wants a financial payment to use that. And so we're working through that. I think that they had talked about potentially giving him, advertising all the things. Okay, this picture was done by whoever it was, my understanding is that he just wants a $500 payment for the use of that picture. So we're looking into options. So it may come down. We may need to vote on either modify the logo with a picture that's okay to use, which shouldn't be too hard to do. I think we got permission from the Lakes for the use of the photo of their place. All right. I
just had a conversation with him today. I'm going to be sending him some. So he may actually have some photos.
Yeah.
So I'll be working with him tomorrow on that and hopefully rectify it soon.
So the logo we may change just ever so slightly with a different picture, so we can avoid having to go through that rigmarole. Okay.
All right, Resolution 2414, which created the committee, Section 5, committee members serve at the pleasure of City Council and can be removed from the committee by a majority vote of City Council. It does not indicate any notice or requirement that he have a moment to plead his case. It's up to you if you want to let him know about it and be here and give his side of the situation. But per your resolution, you do not have to do that.
Yeah, and just and I'll open up for discussion on that. But my understanding, Carl, I was at the meeting, and you actually called out some things that were going on. I mean, my understanding that after all that there was another thing that happened after that.
That's correct.
So, and that's kind of what spawned. I think it was okay up at that point, and when that was kind of the straw that
We thought it was correctable. And the conversations that have been had with the county is that we told the county that we would correct the situation that did not take place, and continued efforts on the members' part continued to take place outside of the committee's purview.
Okay.
I was also at the meeting, and Mr. Roth was very clear in his direction as to the expectation of the communication between any of the members and outside of the committee, meaning city, county, etc. And he was very clear in that communication. There was no ambiguity at all. So he should have been, and he acknowledged that he understood what was going on. Mr. Rose acknowledged that as well. So I'd like to move to remove Mr.
Second.
Was that motion second? Any further discussion? Anyone public like to speak? See my hands, I bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Any more boards committees? I think nobody's got it. Okay. Move on consent agenda. Item number 2, October 22nd, 2024 consent agenda. Looking for a motion and or discussion.
Yes.
Motion to, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Comment?
I'm okay with all this. I just wanted to ask about, do we have any improvement with the red light cameras?
So I'm still finalizing the September. So as soon as I get that, I can have you an answer. But it doesn't look like I think we're only going to be about $1.2 million instead of 1.8. So we're going to be down quite a bit. But there's been no. It came up this month, so I think we'll be fine going forward.
Okay, so we're probably going to keep an eye on that going forward. Thank you.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have motion second for discussion. Anyone in public like to comment? Single hands up, bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have a couple public hearings, free public hearings. The first one, item number 3, first reading of ordinance number 24-704, comprehensive plan text amendment to create a new land use category for future application. Before I pass that off, just so the public understands kind of what these are in a nutshell. So, providing if you want to have a comment on them. So the first one, item number 3, obviously we're going to start with. That's the overall creation of a land use category, and then the other 2, 4, and 5 are actually taking properties that reside in that area and assigning them to that. And so, Mr. Copler mentioned before, normally in public hearings, the very first thing is we open up for public comment on that, and then we have the presentation and the council discusses. Given that this is the first reading, if you find it's okay, I think it probably is, that we go ahead and hold public comment until after the presentation so that the public can hear both the planner and the applicant. So they have all that information and then comment. And then once all that's done, then they come back to council for comment. Does that sound okay?
I absolutely agree. And I will also say there are 3 items, but what you're probably going to hear, and Tammy will correct me if I'm wrong, is you're going to kind of hear all of it. You're going to do all at once, all together, because the second and third presentation would be very repetitive of the first. So she'll explain that. But so we don't really have to do three different things. It'll be one presentation, but then we'll be voting on each or addressing each ordinance separately and clearly.
Yeah, and honestly, if item number 3 does not pass, item number 4 and 5 are irrelevant at that point. That's a good point. So again, item number 4 and 5 are actually assigning individual properties to that new land use category. So that being said, I'll pass it to. Do you need to read it by title first?
Let's do the read by titles after when we address the ordinances at the end. Yeah, so let's just let Ms. Frana and the applicant give their comments.
I welcome Tammy Verana to take us away.
Good evening, everyone. Let me get my bag of tricks here. Usually it fits here. My name is Tammy Verana with Verana Consulting Safety Harbor, and I'm here tonight to discuss these 3 adoption of ordinance public hearings. So we're going to start off with the request for text amendment. We'll go to the next.
If you don't mind, I'm going to have to do it because for whatever reason, when I click on this, it wants to go through on its own sporadically. So I don't know why.
Okay.
Oh, it slides on a timer, maybe?
It keeps
There's no timer. It should not be a timer.
yours, it's mine as well. So I think there's
Okay.
settings I gotta have IT fixed. So.
Very good. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. Thank you. So the purpose of this public hearing is to evaluate a request to change a comprehensive plan policy to look for its consistency with the comprehensive plan, which is the City of Port Richey Comprehensive Plan, and its impact on city growth and development. We want to ensure public participation through this public hearing, comply with legal requirements, consider the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation made on September 17th, which I'll talk more about later. Next, please. So the first request is for the addition of text to policy L.1.1.1 sub or parent H to create the Cody River Landing US 19 corridor land use category. And this would actually go within the adopted portion of the comprehensive plan, which is the goals, objectives, and policies. And then there's a picture there of what we received early on from the applicant, and we'll go step by step through what was presented by the applicant. Next, please. So, I'm going to, big enough I think that you can read it, but I'm just going to touch on the high points so I don't have to listen to me read for a few slides. But the intent of this category is to enhance the unique character of the waterfront district and its natural assets, and to integrate mixed of uses, so residential, office, commercial, to create a revitalized economic focal point. On the right side, it says to create a vibrant destination that offers enhanced community and recreational experiences for a diverse population while leveraging the beauty and economic potential of the natural waterfront. And this well, keep going. I think there's one more, maybe not. It is continued. So this category establishes the maximum residential density and the development intensity, which I'll bring up a little bit later, to enable that mixed use development that is served by adequate public facilities, services, and infrastructure, and then additional constraints or conditions could be applied through the rezoning, future rezoning, to ensure compatibility with surrounding land uses and overall compatibility with the comprehensive plan. Next, please. So the text goes on to describe locational characteristics. This category would be applicable within the area shown as requested by the applicant. There's 25.47 net acres. I had a little bit different on my planning and zoning board, but I had hand calculated, but it's 25.47, and I think in your staff report you'll see the numbers for each parcel, so you can add them up yourself as well. So this locational characteristics would refer to a land use strategy map in the comprehensive plan. So when we get to the end of this and you decide what area should apply, we'll develop that map. Next, please. So for subparent number 2, all properties designated with this category shall be zoned with a planned unit development district to ensure that it aligns with the comprehensive plan and adherence to site-specific land use and development standards. Next, please. So in section 3, the permitted uses and maximum levels of development within this category would be retail sales and service, office, overnight accommodations, residential uses, moderate and high density, and others as indicated in the waterfront overlay district, which resides in the city's zoning code. Where submerged lands exist within the area, those would be generally excluded from density calculations. Next, please. A little gnat over here. So this slide shows the permitted uses on the left column and the maximum levels of development in the right column. So to be understood, this is a maximum and does not guarantee future results. So it's just something to start with in comprehensive planning. The first row, all uses, relates to a floor area ratio. Currently, I'm not going to get into that, but the floor area ratio that's requested is a 2.0 floor area ratio. And that you can think about that is the size of the box, the building, in relation to the lot area. And then the next use is the multifamily residential use that would be limited to 60 dwelling units per acre. And those dwelling units would need to go within the maximum of that box that we talk about with FAR. Next, please. So this is important that for the purposes of the rezoning, that there are guiding principles within the comprehensive plan that are established by this new category. So at the time of that rezoning to planned unit development, we would give attention to the following, but not limited to. Next, please. Transportation impact mitigation, the integration of uses, both vertical and horizontal, the semi-public realm, so those places that are privately owned, but also provide for, like your sidewalk cafes and open spaces that are owned by private entities. Compatibility with surrounding existing and planned uses, economic development objectives, the interconnection of your street system and the design standards for compact development, pedestrian and transit-oriented design principles. Next, please. Building placement, orientation, and site features. Number 9, building intensities, orientation, and massing. And 10, those existing and future programmed public facilities and services. And one more, and this is the placement and extent of parking, landscaping and shade treatments, protection of environmentally sensitive areas, including floodplains and buffer zones, and lastly, tree protection. So that's the extent of the requested text that, if approved by the City Council, would go into your comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. So in this part of the presentation, we'll talk about whether or not it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. So the first we're going to talk about is the future land use policies. Next. So staff found that this was generally consistent, that the new category would be to accommodate urban scale development that would complement the city's range of land use categories in the comprehensive plan. Today, those adopted land use categories support only suburban scale development. So as a redevelopment city, it is appropriate and in line with existing trends for development that you have some opportunity for urban scale development within the city. Next, please. Next, we'll look at surrounding land uses. So the future land use category that's being requested supports mixed uses, including residential, retail, and office uses. Staff found that to be consistent because today, within the commercial mixed-use land use category that applies to the bulk, I think everything except for the park in that area is commercial mixed use, and all of those uses are envisioned by that future land use category. So we're going to talk about development patterns, so the scale of development that's in the area. So staff found that the proposed maximum standard that's being requested of 60 dwelling units per acre is generally incompatible with the existing and planned development patterns in the surrounding area because that area is categorized by low and moderate intensity development and suburban development patterns. Next, please. So when we looked at what would be available under the existing commercial mixed-use category, which allows up to 18 units per acre and up to a 0.60 floor area ratio, but only for non-residential uses. There's that different distinction than what we're going forward with now, is that in this area, you could achieve 458 dwelling units today, so a maximum of those dwelling units. And that's considering complete redevelopment of the area. For the purposes of comprehensive plan, we're always looking at a build-out worst case, just for the purposes of planning for public facilities. For the non-residential use, just a little over 600,000 square feet of commercial, retail, and other non-residential uses. Under what's being proposed, next please. Under what's being proposed, at the 60 units per acre, you'd have a little more than 3 times what's allowed today, so 1,528 dwelling units, and then considering all uses, be a little bit over 2 million square feet of building intensity. Next, please. So we also consider in our compatibility analysis other planning. So as you're all aware, the city had developed a waterfront overlay district zoning, which was based on plans that had a similarly sort of low to moderate intensity development envisioned. And also recently, the city had conducted some community engagement in the spring, where we looked at these 3 areas that were included in a survey, a visual preference survey. We had Waterfront 1 area to the west, area along US 19 corridor, and then also the area that's on the east side of US 19 north of the river. So within this area, there was a pretty profound preference that Waterfront Area 1, which is where the community really feels is like their downtown, that it not be too intensely developed and that be kept predominantly commercial and less residential, just for the interest of being able to continue to use that in the way that was envisioned. Next, please. So next we'll look at adequate public facilities. In the comprehensive plan, we look at transportation, water, sewer, water facilities, water supply, wastewater, parks and recreational facilities, and then stormwater drainage and solid waste. So as of August 2024, when this was developed, potable water supply had about 0.2 million gallons per day of capacity. Potable water facilities were at 0.1 million gallons per day. Wastewater facilities are provided through Newport Richey. Solid waste disposal is through an agreement with the county. Stormwater drainage happens on a site development basis in line with the Southwest Florida Water Management District standards, and also what's provided in your comprehensive plan. Arterial roads and collector roads in the city, today, the standard is a level of service D, but US 19 continues to serve at level of service F, and I don't think that that's going to change. At this time, the city has a surplus of 21.1 acres of parkland, but there are some recreational facilities that are identified in your comprehensive plan that are deficient currently. If we go to what would happen if we took next please, the number of residents, so if we looked at those units that I mentioned before, at 1.9 persons per household, which is in the census data for multifamily use, and multiplied, well, we use multipliers for the different services. I'll spare you the nitty gritty. But with the adoption or the addition of 2,903 residents, which is worst case maximum, probably won't happen, but it's all the property within this area, you'd have a deficit of 0.105 million gallons per day of potable water. Potable water facilities would be a deficit of 0.205 million gallons a day. You'd also be continue to be deficient for US 19, and then those 4 recreational facility types would also be deficient. So we gave that an inconsistent. So then we also looked at the other comprehensive plan policies. Next, please. Housing, conservation, coastal management policies, and economic development. So in general, In general, housing policies look to diversify and increase housing availability within the community to satisfy need by existing residents and also the future residents. So we felt that that was consistent with the addition of new housing units within the city. Conservation policies give you an opportunity to build, and also with coastal management policies, an opportunity to build with conservation and coastal management and resiliency in mind. Also, mixed use, compact mixed use development. People who live there are more inclined to not use their cars for everything. There's also accessibility to transit on US 19, so there's the potential that you'd have environmental positives by having people in a more compact, walkable environment. And then related to economic development policies, the potential for new residences, new development, adding to your ad valorem, we felt that that was consistent with the comprehensive plan. Next, please. Okay, so we had some inconsistencies and some consistencies. So what could be some of the possible solutions to the comprehensive plan inconsistencies? And this is what staff has put forward, that we exclude those waterfront areas from section 1 in the text under locational criteria, to exclude the waterfront 1 area and the very western portion of the property that we're going to talk about in the next, but I'm jumping ahead. So essentially making it a smaller mapped area for the application of this text. Next would be to lower the maximum residential density to 40 units per acre, and then to also strike from the text the adjective non-residential development, because the way that the staff and the applicant have envisioned is that floor area ratio would be all-encompassing, including residential, and so that non-residential does, it's an early iteration that we didn't catch, so that would need to go. Okay, so let's go to the next. So I'm giving to you tonight 3 scenarios, and what's going to be shown in the next 2 slides are the distinctions. So we have the applicant's request, the planning staff's recommendation, and then also the planning and zoning board's recommendation. So across the board, we need to strike that residential, and the only reason I don't have it struck for the applicant is because it was just an early version of theirs, and I'm sure that they're in agreement, but the applicant can tell you that himself when he gets up to do his presentation. Under the max density, the applicant's requesting 60 units per acre. Planning staff is recommending 40 units per acre, and the Planning and Zoning Board recommended 40 units per acre as well. Next, please. So this shows the map area, and so you can see from the applicant's request, it's a larger area, And then you can see in the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation, it's the same area. So for planning staff's recommendation to exclude that waterfront 1 area, it's smaller. So essentially, those are the 3 scenarios that we're putting, well, actually, well, there's 3 scenarios considering everything but those are put forward for you tonight. And that's going to be the end of this presentation, so I look forward to questions when we get to the end of the next 2. Next, please. So this next one is a request for a future land use map amendment to apply that future land use category on specific properties. These properties are located at 5419 Treadway Drive and 7944 Bayview Street. And the applicant's name is listed there. So this is an ordinance first reading. I'll go to the next. Oops, did I repeat that? Okay, keep going. Oop. Okay, the purpose of this meeting is to to evaluate the request to change the city's future land use map, which is a policy in the comprehensive plan, to look for its consistency with the comprehensive plan and its impact on city growth and development, to ensure public participation, comply with legal requirements, and also to consider the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation from the September 17th meeting. Next, please. So this is the parcel in question. You can see where it's related to US 19 and Miller's Bayou. It has a total of 3.64 acres. Next, please. So the request is to change the designation on the future land use map, which is shown in the picture, from the current commercial mixed use category that we talked about in the last slide presentation to the Cody River Landing US 19 corridor. Next, please. So the key differences between these categories is that 18 units per acre are allowed in the commercial mixed use category and a 0.6 floor area ratio as well. Under the proposed, the dwelling units per acre would be 60 units per acre and the floor area ratio would be 2.0 floor area ratio for all uses. And also within the category, the proposed category, it would exclude industrial uses, which are allowed to a limited extent in the commercial mixed-use category. Next, please.
Now, just to clarify, that proposed, that's the applicant's original application proposed, not what planning and zoning is proposing.
Yes, exactly. So, so the maximum total development that's allowed, that would be allowed on the subject parcels under each of these categories, you would have up to 65 units in the commercial mixed-use category, or about 95,000 square feet of non-residential building area. And then for the proposed, you would have 218 maximum units and a maximum of 317 square feet of floor area for all uses. Next, please. So then we looked at the consistency with the comprehensive plan. So we felt that the future land use map change would be consistent with the future land use map today because it allows those same uses, but then of course if you adopt the future land use category, then it would be consistent as well. Looking at compatibility with the surroundings, the land uses and development patterns are still, they're low and medium intensity, and also the planning that's gone in the area is also not very high intensity. Next, please. So we did look at what's around the subject parcels. So we can see that, there's to the south, they've got bar, restaurant, surface parking. To the east is a gas station and vacant commercial. To the west is a bar, restaurant, and surface parking. And then you can see the future land use map and zoning designations of those surrounding parcels. Next, please. So as I mentioned in the last presentation, other planning has included the adoption of the Waterfront Overlay District, which provides for essentially what is the commercial mixed-use category provides for today. And then within the Imagine Cody River Landing process, there was the preference for lower intensity, non-residential development in Waterfront Area 1. Next, please. The same analysis was done for public facilities and services. So go to the next, I think I have there. So if you accommodated those new 218, is it 208? I think I messed that up though. So anyway, you're going to have capacity with this development because you can see here, this is the blue. is it 218 new residents? There's so many numbers from all these different applications. But overall, the deficiencies that you have today would be the ones that you would have tomorrow, but the other facilities are adequate. Next, please. And then compatibility with other plan policies. The same holds true as what was mentioned for the last presentation, that this would further your goals, objectives, and policies regarding housing, conservation, coastal management element, and economic development. Next, please. So possible solutions to this would be to amend the land use to the new category, which excludes industrial uses and requires planned unit development specific design standards. It would be tailored to this particular site. For the waterfront, we would, the request would be to, or the staff's recommendation would be to less out that sort of flagpole-shaped portion of the subject parcels to the west, and then to lean in on your development design, so to mitigate any issues relative to compatibility in conjunction with the PUD rezoning and a development agreement. Next, please. So that's the end of this. And so pretty much the same, the same findings hold true for this US 19 parcel, 8095 US 19. Next, please. The same purposes, that we want to make sure that we have consistency with the comprehensive plan, ensuring public participation, compliance with legal requirements, and to consider the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation. And I would like to say that in the last one I did not mention, the Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval of these two cases that I'm going through now. Next, please. Here's the subject parcel. It has 4.92 acres, so just under 5 acres. Next, please. Again, the request is to go from the commercial mixed-use category to the Cody River Landing US 19 corridor. Next, please. The same as I mentioned before, the standards for the commercial mixed-use category as opposed to what's being requested under the new category. And that would allow, next please, 88 dwelling units under the existing conditions, and if approved, it would allow 295 dwelling units in the, for the new category. Next, please. The same consistency findings were, we had the same consistency findings with this case as with the previous one. So we pretty much showed that there was consistency with the future land use map, general inconsistency with surrounding uses. Next, please. This shows the existing land uses that are around this one. So to the north, you have single-family residential, multifamily residential, office, and retail. To the south is a gas station. To the east is US 19, auto sales and retail. And to the west is a public park and a bar and restaurant. Next, please. Again, other planning that is taking place in the area includes the Waterfront Overlay District and the visual preference survey conducted in the spring. Next, please. So then we looked at public facilities and services availability. Next, please. Yeah, my numbers are wrong up there, so, but same holds true. There's capacity for this, this future land use plan amendment, even though for the overall build out of the entire area, there would be a deficiency. Next, please. And then the same findings for compatibility with other plan policies. Next, please. So for this one, to resolve those inconsistencies would be to amend the land use for this new category, which excludes industrial uses and requires design specifics, and then also to mitigate issues during the PUD rezoning and development agreement. So next, please. And that's it. We're at the end. So, yes.
What happens on the one with that strip if it's not included? Does that just stay in the waterfront?
What would happen?
District?
So,
What if you're taking that strip out?
So everything stays in the waterfront overlay district until the time of rezoning. So what it would do is it would, yes, it would stay within that zoning. It would not be subject to well, it would be included in the PUD, sorry, I haven't thought that far apart. What we would do is we would, the 18 units per acre that's allowed in the commercial mixed-use category could be blended with the new requested density, the 60 or 40, whatever you decide, in yielding the maximum number of residential.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying, or I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Okay.
Because there's a strip that runs down along the channel,
Right.
and you're recommending to take that out.
Well, so I explain that. The reason that they recommend to take that out is because on their stats map, they don't include that waterfront. Could you pull that one back up that shows the,
Can you go to the map with the scenarios 1, 2, 3?
because that property,
It's a very narrow strip.
yeah,
But
it's part of the other
But if it
boundary.
gets taken out, then
It's not taken out, it's still available for development, it still would,
show the map with it X'd out.
it's coming.
Because it wouldn't, if you use, once you see the map, you'll understand.
It would still be a part of a cohesive development. It's just that those standards for the 60 units per acre and the floor area ratio of 2.0 would not change. So you would look at that as a whole aggregated development, such as what's happening when these two development sites, the two future land use maps, are going to be an integrated development. There's going to be the US 19 corridor, there's going to be the Treadway corridor, and then there's the piece that goes off to the west.
Yeah, so you see the middle map there? Staff recommendation, they didn't have that waterfront piece included in it. They had a smaller map, and so the property, basically Gill Dogs, is inside the purple dotted line, but that strip along the waterfront is not in there. So that's why they would be excluding it. It's not part of in that scenario, it's not part of the Cody River Landing.
In that scenario, that's one.
So in the item number 3, planning zoning's recommendation, that doesn't apply because it is in that.
But it still can be integrated into the development. It's just that the comprehensive plan policy that applies would be at the 18 units per acre and the 0.60 floor area ratio,
For that strip,
just for that strip.
which is
But it
not
could-
that wide anyway.
Well, the strip's value is, you take it as a whole in the PUD, so whatever say it's 8.5 acres or whatever, that little strip, you'd only have 18 to contribute as opposed to 60.
And you would be able to take the 18, because maybe the residential can't even go on that strip, but you can take those 18 units and bring them over, you can aggregate them across the site.
Okay, yeah, I do understand that.
Okay, sorry, I didn't catch that earlier.
Could you go toggle a few forward, because I think in the US 19 property, I didn't think the math was right on the units. Yeah, 218, and I thought it was higher than that. Keep going.
4.9 acres.
Yeah, the 4.9 acres.
There, so look at the dwelling units,
That's
if you're talking about the,
property. That's 3.64 acres, not the 4.9.
You have to go to the next.
Keep going.
blue is the Treadway, well, not that blue.
Treadway, it's the 19.
Treadway, and purple is the US 19, so if
Right.
it's color-coded to help.
On the US 19,
Keep going.
carried over the 218.
Keep rolling forward. I'll tell you where.
You tell me when.
All right.
Go to the next.
Yeah.
That one.
That one.
Yeah.
That's it.
That property is almost 5 acres.
4.92, yeah.
Correct.
Actually, keep going.
Yeah. There. Facilities by 218 residents.
I think that,
Higher than that for that property. That was identical to the
I
previous
think what I did was a cut and paste when I was, so it's a cut and paste era.
number B.
So let's go back up. One more. Oh, there we go. So 295 dwelling units times 1.9 persons per unit. So whatever that is, I don't have a,
Oh, well,
580 something,
I'm a planner, so
two-
I'm not an engineer.
295 times what?
1.9.
1.9.
Times 1.9.
600.
560 and a half,
Okay.
to be exact, based on Microsoft
Which half?
calculator.
The top?
The calculation of adequacy of the public facilities occurs at the time of zoning and really at the time of the final certificate of occupancy. So, we want to make sure that there's adequate capacity in water, sewer. Some things like transportation, you have like 3 years. I think maybe Parks and Rec might be also 3 years. But those calculations as to whether or not this development would meet the adequate facilities levels of service would be in conjunction with the rezoning. Because then we would actually know how many units were going to be, what was the reality and versus just the maximum.
After it got built, so that may be 3 years down the road. That
Not after it got built, as it's being planned for,
comes into permit.
comes in for permitting, right? For zoning and permitting.
On the deficiencies, there was for the 19, it was something F. I think that's a grade, right? On that.
So we grade roadway facilities on a level of from A to F, with A being like a good grade and F being the worst. So US 19 is really just kind of, we manage it. I mean, you're not responsible for all the traffic that's generated on US 19. It's coming from everywhere. So what we try to do is with development, of course, to limit the amount of impact that we're putting onto our state facilities, which happens to be a strategic intermodal facility on the state system. So it's a high priority one. But, if you can, and also you have an ordinance that allows an applicant, a developer, to pay for their impacts. So it's a pay and go process. So it's not as though you can hold them up for that. But as a city, you should be looking at ways to manage the demand for.
Right. I guess what I was going to ask was, what's its grade without the development? It's an F already, I think.
It's F right now. It was F 10 years ago.
That's still an F.
Right.
It's just
It's just
an F plus.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
You
Or
would
F minus, I guess, yeah, F minus.
You would put the water, the potable water, and there it's blue. Both scenarios you have that it's good, but then there was one screen that you had that
was the text amendment that looked at complete redevelopment of the whole area, the map area. So not these two parcels, but this. So it was the overall sort of the worst case scenario. If the entire area redeveloped, then you would be in a deficit situation. And I know that you guys are working on your water system upgrades and maybe getting a water use permit update. So those are things that you would have time before anything like that would ever happen. But for the purposes of when we send this off to the state for review, we want to let them know like what is the ultimate, the maximum.
that's the water treatment plant. But what about the well fields? The well fields is where we get our water from.
So your water supply is limited by your water use permit by the state.
Say that again.
Your water supply, what you have available that you can pump from the ground, is based on your water use permit from SwiftMud from the state. And Sal probably can.
Is that enough to supply this? Because if not, we're buying water from Newport Richey at a much higher rate, which means all the residents have to pay for increased water rate.
So
not just a specific
for the
entity.
So when you look at that whole area, which that is reflective of, if it was all developed and 2,900 residents were put in there, businesses, it would show a deficiency.
So you knock down Catches, Hooters, everything down there, and you build 6.
But with just the two properties that are being added into that, we do have the capacity for those two based upon what that maximum development would be.
So if we're changing the whole area to whether it be 40 or 60 or 18, whatever that thing is, to residents, they could knock down Hooters and Catches, and if we change this now, and then we will not have enough water.
As we sit here today, that's correct.
Well,
also if Hooters and
to Pasco County and getting water to bring down to Tampa, there's not enough water supply. They're already hitting our well fields in Pasco County, so it's not unlikely that we're gonna lose our well fields, or they're not going to be well supplied.
Well, so from our perspective, doing that, the planning for our water supply, our intentions are, one, increasing our well fills. So we believe we have the ability to add new wells to our system. And in doing that, they're going to be probably higher production than what we currently have, and they'll be deeper. So both that will help with the water quality as well as what the water supply is. The other piece of that, the potable water facility, so that's the treatment facility. Again, what we're looking at is doing a larger plant, obviously, and a newer technology or a different technology than what we're doing. And so in doing that, we will probably get an increase in what our permit allows for us to treat. And we have, I think, is a 2 million gallon a day capacity of the plant. But we really, our permit only allows, I think it's 1.5 million to be produced, right? And so as part of a new facility, that capacity is going to be larger. We should get a larger amount than, as well as what the permitted daily use is going to be. And then the third piece of that is we're going to get a new holding tank as part of it, which will be larger, which will make that even better for.
That's not for 5 years down the road. That's if we get the grant, because we're not going to have $44 million to build a new water treatment plant.
Well,
So-
I will say that right now, again, as we sit here today, in 5 years we have to do something,
Okay, exactly.
and so that could be, again, regardless of this development, in 5 years we either have to be
Yes.
getting ready to put a shovel in the ground because we got the grant, or we're looking at an alternate supply of water. I mean, there's not another option for us right now.
In 5 years, we won't have any capacity.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is that we're looking at the waterfront district, Cody River Landing as a whole, changing the acres, the dwellings per acre. Right now, Seaside's for sale. Hooters isn't opened. The casino boat, I understand that. So someone could come in and buy all that and make those, whether it be 60, 40, 18, whatever the end number is. And then we're going to be in a situation where we're not going to have enough water for all the residents. And that's a lot of money for people to have to pay. We already pay a lot of money for water. It's going to be a lot more if we have to buy it from Newport Richey.
And so I think, one of the things that you need to take into consideration, though, is that 2,900 is based upon 60 per acre. So that number isn't, again, unless council decides to allow 60 per acre, that number is going to be a little bit south of that. I'm not sure what the total number is, but it's going to be a little bit less than that. So again, we don't have the numbers up there. I mean, the calculation wasn't done to show what a 40 per acre would be. I think the second thing to take into consideration is that this is requiring that any development that's going to be using this has to be rezoned to planned unit development. So again, right now, there's not a lot of potential. I mean, if you just look at the individual parcels, there's not a lot of those parcels right now in common ownership that would have that ability to do that. So they would have to aggregate the property, they would have to acquire and do that. Again, I'm not saying that can't happen, but again, just.
Could I add something?
Yeah.
So each property owner that wants to take advantage of this future land use category has to come before you for a future land use map amendment. And this type of analysis would need to take place for each individual application.
That capacity would be an issue on each one of those.
Right. So if you got to the point where you had no capacity left, then you would say, we don't feel that, it's not consistent with our comprehensive plan for us to approve this.
Can I ask Tom part of the conversation and
Real quick. So,
Hold those?
so
I'm getting. We need. This is a time now for you to ask questions of the planner.
we'll have a discussion afterwards. We can ask that
Discussion's
question.
coming, so make notes so you guys can finish asking any questions of the planner if you have any. The applicant needs to be able to provide his
And then we'll bring it back for
response.
discussion.
And then we have public comment, and then you can ask all the questions and have all the conversation you need. So we need to stay on track. I know it's hard. It's some complicated questions.
A question I did have for you, I haven't seen, but at the planning and zoning recommendation of the entire area at the 40, did we do any of this analysis to see if we were, on that 40 unit per acre and the bigger map, do we have anything in red or do we know? I would think we probably don't.
Well, we would have less So you mean, as far as the overall build out, would there be
Overall, if we knocked everything down and we did 40 units per acre,
at the smaller area?
it's a bigger area. So what planning and zoning has recommended is that the map stays like the applicant asked, but at a lower density of 40. When you run those numbers, extrapolate out as we knock everything down and build up at that 40 units per acre, where do our numbers, are they still in the red? I mean, obviously,
I can go and calculate those while the applicant's speaking, but
see if that resolves that or not. It'd be less.
I think overall, because you're really running up at the limits of what you have available as far as water supply and water facilities. So I think these two developments are probably okay, but even if you pulled in the 40 units per acre, it's probably going to put you in the red.
Be curious to see that number. I mean,
I'll go calculate it when I go sit down.
anything else for Tammy? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And so now I'd like Ryan Burke, the applicant, if you want to come up. The floor is yours.
I mean, the rule, Ryan Burke, do I need to say anything else?
Address.
Oh, 4529 Harbor Point Drive.
It's up to you. This is your chance to explain to them
Great.
what you just heard her say, why you don't agree with it, or why you agree with it, or whatever you want them to know for their consideration.
Excellent. And look, we've all, I think, seen these slides, seen the presentation, talked about it, and I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Like, we've just gone through something absolutely horrific, and people have things to do and other things to worry about. So if you guys would like me to go through these slides, if those here would like me to go through these slides, I'm very happy to. Otherwise, I'm happy to summarize it in like 2 or 3 minutes and allow you guys to open it up to ask the questions that I think are most important to you all.
I think everybody's seen, at least on council, the presentation. Want to like summarize it? Okay.
Perfect. So I think in summary, I was really excited to see the collaboration that happened within the Planning and Zoning Committee. It's been my goal within this project to be collaborative, and I think the idea that we put forward did that. It forces collaboration. We didn't ask for just a change to the density and intensity. We set out guidelines around how that could be changed, what properties could be included, what are the requirements to be included in that, and then it has to go into a planned unit development so that it forces collaboration. It forces us to work with you all. A lot of that, and as you know, you brought up, what if someone goes and buys everything and someone just maxes out the density? That was a fear of mine, right? And my fear is I walk out and get hit by a car tomorrow. And I wanted to make sure that whatever we put forth had those protections that wouldn't allow for someone just to come in, carte blanche, mow everything down, and put up something that doesn't benefit the city. I think a project like this can be transformational to the city. I think it can have a tremendous economic impact on the city. You'll see in the presentation that a development this size brings millions of dollars in profit to the city and a continuing ongoing revenue stream to the city. It can be used for things that I think are more important. Things like our parks, things like our sidewalks, things like our water. And so really allowing the city to finally realize financial gain with something that also benefits the residents, which I think is critical. I think it needs to be a place that's for the community, a place that people can walk to, a place that people can enjoy, and finally, a place that can support small businesses. Small businesses during this time have gotten hit hard. I know many of them, and it's going to be tough, and it's going to be tough for a while. And I think it shows the importance of having people living here, having that density to support those small businesses and retail that I've heard from the public that everyone wants. Everyone wants those options to stay local, go to restaurants, go shopping, walk on a boardwalk, walk on the waterfront. And the density allows those things to not only happen, but to actually thrive and survive and be sustainable long term. When you look at most small businesses, about 70% of them fail within the first 10 years. Adding on an additional hurdle to overcome of not having people around to shop at them is important. And then finally, I think we've shown that there's a housing shortage that's on the horizon. And I think this would allow us to address this in a collaborative way with the city. But happy to answer any questions and really want to be open with anything you have. And I've been very grateful for your guys' patience as we've worked through this process for the past 16, 17 months to get to where we are today, to where hopefully we can start moving forward.
So just a quick question. So obviously you saw the staff recommendation and you saw what planning and zoning put forward. What's your thoughts on that? Because obviously your application showed the entire map, which the planning and zoning did keep that the same, but they did drop the density down from 60 to 40. Does that, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think for a couple of reasons, I like the fact that they kept the map as we applied. That avoids us having to come back and do this all again, whether it's us, whether it's some other applicant coming back and asking to be incorporated in this. It kind of avoids that step. I think the 40 units an acre is reasonable, and we're okay to move forward with that. We don't have an objection to it, because I think our intent, again, as we switch this PUD, is to be very strategic with the city on where the density is, how the density is used. And so I don't think it's like, never had intent to put 40 units on every single acre back there. It's not our intent at all. So, nor 60. So I think that the PUD structure allows us flexibility to work within the 40 units and work with the city to come up with a good plan. So we have no objection to it.
Any questions?
Can I ask my question now?
Well,
Just
if
for the
it's-
application.
yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah.
That's right.
We'll let you know.
You're going to be the first.
You did answer my question, Ryan, sorry.
I checked the rules too when I got up here. So.
Oh, no questions. I appreciate you coming out. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now I'm going to open up the public comment. The public has steadily dwindled. Does anybody like to speak? I have no signups. By comments? Okay, if not, I'll bring it back and close the public hearing.
No, that's fine. I'm closed. That's fine. I was going to read the first ordinance and then you guys can discuss away.
Okay, so close the public hearing, read it by title.
Yes. Ordinance number 24704, an ordinance of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending the City of Port Richey Comprehensive Plan, ordinance number 88-382 as amended, providing for a text amendment to the future land use category by amending policy L111 to add the Cody River Landing US 19 corridor land use category, providing for up to 40 units per acre and 2.0 floor area ratio, providing for purpose and intent, providing findings, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. And with that, I'll open it up for motion and discussion, and I will pass it directly to Vice Mayor Rodriguez because I know she's been anxiously waiting to talk to the fire department.
Now he's second. In the ordinance, in the title, it's 40 units per acre, but in the first paragraph, it's 60 units per acre.
The first paragraph is the application, and the title is what is proposed to happen based on what planning and zoning did. If you guys go back to 60, we'll be amending the title. But the title is based on planning and zoning's recommendation and staff's recommendation. The first part's just the application, and here it explains that it changed.
Yeah, so the ordinance basically lines out that the map will be the entire area at 40 units per
It's
acre.
the kind of
Yeah,
timeline.
that's what they have.
Yeah.
Now, everybody says we're going to need a whole new fire truck for $3 million, or I made that number up, to accommodate I know it's not a high rise, it's a mid rise, don't kill me, a large building. Do we need additional equipment that we do not have to accommodate this? What are the regulations?
So in the memo addressed to the building department, we addressed that, and it says that the proposed building will require initial response of an aerial firefighting apparatus. This would have to be secured to ensure the first alarm responses and arrival of specialized apparatus. We would secure that obviously with our mutual aid resources and have to probably just amend our mutual aid responses and our auto Medicaid responses to include an aerial apparatus to respond to these structures to make sure we honor initial response. That means the time the 911 call goes out, there's a thing for structure fires, not for obviously medical calls and everything like that, but for a structure fire response. And that would be across the board really for any structure.
And Newport Richey has that?
Newport Richey has that.
Pasco does.
Pasco County has that. So the closest one to us for Pasco County is at Cross Bayou, Station 19, which is a 100-foot truck. Station 30 on Madison currently has a 100-foot truck, and Newport Richey has a 75-foot truck.
Okay, so we're not required to buy
We
an
wouldn't be
additional
required to
ladder truck.
buy one.
Okay.
We don't have anywhere to put it.
Well, I know, but we're looking at getting a new fire station. That was my question.
Can I ask a question?
Are you finished?
I am. That's all I needed to ask.
Okay, Dave?
Currently, we have high rises or mid rises today, and that's how you service that capacity. Is it correct? In Sand Pebble?
So, again, this is based off of us not seeing any plans or anything like that.
I'm talking about Sand Pebble.
Yeah, well, Sand Pebble's different because you're talking about a sprinkler building, you have standpipes, outside stairwells. There's so many factors that go into whether we have an aerial apparatus responding on the initial alarm or so you have an initial alarm and then you have a working fire alarm. Every working fire automatically gets a ladder truck assigned to it, okay? But on the initial alarm, who's initially going straight? Sand Pebble's, different in the sense that I haven't seen plans. So I'm basing this off of a building that I've never seen before and can't do this. So we're going to say that we're going to initially have an aerial apparatus coming to it. Sand Pebble is obviously outside stair. There's a lot of factors besides just being a tall building if we send a ladder truck or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have, I got a lot of things to talk about. We'll talk about later. Just a statement, maybe a wish list. There's 6 shrimp boats there by the bayou, by Hooters. That's been here longer than anybody else has been here through generation to generation. I'm just hoping that we provide slips for those shrimp boats at a reasonable rate after this is all said and done, because they're a very important part of our history.
If you want to respond.
If you want, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Come on.
I think that's the whole intent of this, is to work with the city on things just like that.
Very good.
I agree with you. I also think there's an opportunity to make even more out of it, make those slips nicer, make them more accessible, make them more walkable, widen them so that they can be more pedestrian friendly. So there's a lot of opportunity there that we can do with this project together.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And again, just as far as the details of that all
Right,
comes in that
this
PUD process, whatever. So this is really just a framework.
See tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Any other questions or comments?
I know there are 3 land. It's the whole waterfront district. Then there's the planning and zoning, which is the same thing. And then it's the staff recommendation of the smaller one. That includes just the Gildogs property. Is that correct?
No, it's just
No.
it takes off the basic route.
Takes off this.
Waterfront.
It just takes off this part.
So basically, it takes off Seaside, Hooters, Whiskey Joe's.
This one.
Oh, the
Catches.
Is this
What
one?
page is it?
Catches as
Yes,
well. Yeah.
that's the
What page
planning's
is it?
recommendation.
This is 81. Is this?
What's that street that goes on there?
Yes, this is it. Yeah.
Bayview.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, basically Bayview's the line. Yeah, Bayview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to use the staff recommendation instead of the whole waterfront district. That saves Hooters and Catches and all of that. And we can address the council, whoever's on here in the future, if that future land needs to be addressed, if people want to do exactly what this is being done, that can be addressed at that time. I understand, save those people from going through this process, but I think the city has a right to the citizens to reevaluate it, see how this goes. I'm sure it'll go great. And then if somebody wants to do that, we go through the process for that. I would like to use the staff planning staff recommendation number 2 for the land.
Okay, is that a motion?
Sure,
Where we
with the
gonna
40 units per dwelling per acre.
Were we going to wait for Tammy?
Oh, sure we can, sure.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So at 40 units per acre in the larger area, you would have a deficit of 3,000 gallons of water and a deficit of 103,000 of water facilities.
So it went from 100,000 to 3,000, I guess, basically on the one, and 200,000 to what was it?
I don't have that one with me. I have to go look. Yep. So
Still in red, but it went down.
So that's for the map
3.
for 3.
Right.
At 40 units per acre.
Correct.
Correct. So if we do the planning staff recommendation, it would be less, that we might be closer to what we have
And that-
our supply?
Yeah, so at the 40 units per acre with the larger area, you're coming like right in at what your capacity is now. That doesn't consider any other growth that's happening. Also doesn't consider what you might be doing relative to conservation. So you could actually expand your budget by just maybe having some standards that require higher levels of water conservation. So, I mean, there's other things you can do. I don't think this is a scary number, but it's something that you're working on anyway.
Just for my own purposes, did you use the 105 gallons per
Yes.
person?
Right.
Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, the 105 is what the comprehensive plan identifies as use per individual. What we're finding though right now, we're probably closer to 80. So again, from a what we're actually doing versus what the plan recommends us to look at, there's two different numbers, 25 gallons.
But that's the standard, so I would think we would need to use the standard as opposed to.
It's a plan.
Say, this is
Yeah,
what.
no,
you
no,
can't
I'm-
lift that one, so.
Right.
Planning level standard. No, it's a planning level standard. So we always want to be conservative, but you'll use that actual demand when you go forward to the water management district to say, this is what we're doing, we're conserving, we're growing, and we need to have a bit more to our permit.
And I don't say that to change anything other than, when we get to another discussion somewhere down the road about the water plant and changes the comprehensive plan we have to make and the water supply plan we have to put in there, we're using 80, not 105 for that. So I didn't want to.
Buffer, but it's always a good idea for planning purposes to use your standard.
And that's if there's 40 on every acre in here,
That's right. Redevelopment.
On the 25 acres.
which is probably not going to happen.
Right. It's a worst case, it's a maximum.
Area.
Right.
But it's probably not going to happen that there's 40 on every single acre in here. Not with what's being proposed to be put in there.
Right. And you would evaluate with each successive request and also the rezoning and also the permitting, you would make sure that you would not
Going over.
go into the negative.
So one thing I want to make sure everybody understands. So I'm actually an advocate for the larger map. And matter of fact, I think later on down the road, we should even, and it was kind of funny during the planning and zoning meeting, Randy actually included the east side of 19 down there where Crab Shack is and all that. Obviously, the goal of this is to create that destination, right, and to make it a walkable area and to really connect all this stuff and do a lot of things. I think we look well into the future. I think it would behoove us to actually grow that map again within reason, because we want to create that destination, and we want to have enough density down there to support all the cool stuff that we'd like to see down there, restaurants, whatever. And if you look down now, this is just a poster child case for why we need density, because this event hit us, and even before the event hit us, the hurricane, we had Gill Dogs closed, Seaside's flipped hands 3 times closed, and now you have these disasters that come in because they're low-lying properties. They aren't built to deal with that. The only ones we got open down there right now are Whiskey Joe's and Catches. And so we want to encourage that development down there so that new stuff happens and it gets built up and it's fortified and it drains better and all the things that come with new development that you just can't you really can't mitigate with existing structures. And so it would be nice to have that, at least from a starting point of that bigger map, because that allows those other properties to get acquired and maybe rolled into something, and you can shift that density around so you can keep less stuff on the waterfront, maybe a little higher on 19. That allows for transferring that around and gives a property owner the ability to acquire more properties and kind of build something bigger than just Gill Dogs and 19. So there's a benefit to having that larger area as well. I make one more comment too. As we look at these numbers, again, worst case scenario, if we mowed down the entire waterfront area, which is not going to happen. I mean, technically it could, right? And in the future, who knows? Maybe a hurricane comes through and levels the whole place, and then everybody starts fresh. It's kind of that thing now at this point, but you know, we're not going to see those numbers. We're using math that's really we're using 105 versus what's actually being used at 80, so they're really artificially high. And again, as we look forward 5 years down the road, and we have this development, we have this money coming in, regardless of whether this happens or not, 5 years from now, we're going to be doing something with the water plant, and if all goes well, maybe we'll be a supplier of water instead of having to reach out to Newport Richey for water. Maybe they'll be reaching out to us because we can supply it cheaper than what they get it from Tampa Bay. Again, all speculative, but if we do the right things and we make these adjustments, we can really put us on a good footing moving forward. And I don't think we're going to see this ultimate doom by overachieving or over allocating our water resources. I think we're going to take care of that well in advance of that. Oh, podium, please.
Just sit up close, Ryan.
One thing to clarify is this first is changing, and Tammy can explain it better than I can, but you're changing the land use category. But then the next two things you're voting on, if this goes through, is actually each individual land being accepted into that land use category. So if someone acquired another property down there, they would have to go through that process of getting that piece accepted into that planned unit development, but they wouldn't have to go back and change the whole comprehensive plan to allow for that application to even be relevant. Is that a fair way of describing it?
We have to go through this whole process over again if we wanted. Let's say we restricted that map area. We'd have to go through this whole rigmarole again just to move it out. And again, we have control over it anyway, because if we make the map larger, you still got to have at least 5 acres to do anything. So, for example, let's say we leave the map the way planning and zoning did it. These two properties get moved in. Okay. Together they have 8.5 some acres, I think, contiguous. So that would be a plan unit development. We'd see that coming forward. We'd talk about that, whatever gets done there. Somebody can't come in and buy Seaside at, what was the math on that? 3 acres or 2?
1.9.
So they couldn't come in, and even though they're in that map area, they can't, unless they have 5 acres. So they'd have to have they'd have to acquire the Hooters property. And I don't even know if that would give them 5 acres, because they can't jump across next park because we own that. So, you know, it really
connect.
You have to be contiguous property. I mean, a street can go through you, but a city property can't. So it's not like they're going to buy up these little spots and make 5 acres. They all got to be together. And again, it's all in the future when we talk about, do we want to move that in or not? And then go the whole plan unit development, or what the capacity is going to be. So they have to speak about it from staff perspective of, based on these numbers, this is worst case scenario, but worst case scenario, not likely or even possible.
So why did the staff recommend this map, the smaller map? What was the rationale for that?
Because of the development pattern around these sites, around the entire site, I guess, and also the plan development. So we found that to be incompatible with the neighborhood character, which is low intensity, low in density, suburban scale. And so we thought that that you'd have a better opportunity to mitigate for some of that scale issue that you would have with a 60 unit per acre development versus a 40 unit per acre development. And then in addition to that, we look at your planning for the waterfront overlay district, and also the survey that was done with the community that was very well participated in, that there was a desire that the waterfront 1 area be less intensive. So what had been envisioned with the Reimagine Cody River plan was that we would do, and we applied for a grant, we did not get it, but we would do some planning to actually see what the needs were of those three areas. And granted, that takes time, and we don't necessarily want to hold up the private sector from doing their thing.
Of course.
And so I thought it would be advantageous or prudent to leave that waterfront area out so that we could look at what, I kind of look at that as somewhat like a historic district. You know, it's got a character, it's got something that the community wants to preserve. Maybe there's some opportunities for transferable transferable development rights, such as what they're using in the downtown core in Newport Richey, to be able to make it viable for those developments to continue on. Maybe they can sell off some of their, but we don't have that in the comp plan right now because we're going through it very quickly. That's something that we could think about with the east side, with the west side. US 19, that's really where your opportunity is for a lot of intensity. And making opportunities for housing. You're going to have repetitive loss properties. You've had some that have gone back to the off the tax rolls. You could, like some communities that have gone through disasters like we've been through, that you lose your population because they move someplace else and then that property. So this is a way for you to be looking to the future to provide some vertical housing within the city in appropriate locations. So that's where, we thought that maybe a more incremental approach to this versus, but I do understand, it is a process to go through this, but you would already have a category to emulate. Maybe it's just, we have some additional provisions for transferable development rights or different ratios of density, residential density and non-residential, whatever that might be, but we just haven't gotten there yet. And that was the rationale. But I think it's totally reasonable what the Planning and Zoning Board came up with. They understand the complexities of going through this process, and I don't think people, and maybe they see something different in that area. But based on the information I had available to
Was staff meaning you? Staff doesn't mean Port Richey staff. This means this is you.
Yeah, and I'm your planning. I'm your.
Yeah, she is our staff, just contracted.
Right. I wanted to make it clear that they didn't. We didn't ask.
Right.
No offense.
I use my professional planning judgment. I, of course, looked at your comprehensive plan.
I know.
I understand the history of the community. I've listened to the thousands of comments that we received. So all of that is what I came up with as far as that. And maybe there will be continue to be plan. We could always amend the comprehensive plan later, but it's always harder to go down. You can add to,
right,
but going down is a little bit more of a lift.
And that's where I'm coming from. So I stand on my 40 units per acre with the staff recommendation of this as a motion.
Okay, so
I understand we can add to it, and she is the professional. None of us up here are professionals.
I can tell you what to think about, but it's your community's values, and so you need to rely on what you feel as the community.
Well, our community spoke pretty loudly on your Imagine survey. So they agreed with this. So,
and I just want to be clear, it's not Tammy out there on an island by herself. I mean, when she says staff,
certainly,
I agree with what her recommendation was. So it is truly a staff recommendation.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so
I wrote the report, and of course everybody reviewed it, but I'm just taking it.
She's the front.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're right behind her.
I have we've had a lot of conversations, including with the applicant, so we've had a really good rapport through this entire process, but everybody's bringing their own information to the process, which is important. That's the collaboration that we need when we do development.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, simply because if we decide to do this, we really would like to do it once. Does it make any sense? You've been figuring at 40 units per acre, and then you figured at 60 units per acre. Does it make any sense if we did it at 50 units per acre, just to be safe?
You can make any adjustments you want. Once
Okay.
Once I entertain the motions on the table.
That's my question. That's it.
So,
but whatever units per acre, ultimately, when a plan comes forward, if we have 40 units, that's the maximum they could go.
It's a
We could
max.
approve 15, for
Right.
example. Or if you had 50, you could approve 35.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, it's not a guarantee that somebody is coming to the table asking for 50 is going to get 50.
Yeah, no,
or 40 or 60 or whatever.
I do want to be transparent with councils, and I think you all know this, but just whatever that number is, there's a Live Local Act that can tap into that maximum density. So when we talked about 60, that's scary because while it's all good, it's a max or whatever, Live Local Act allows them to come in and acquire property somewhere else in the city and use that 60. So it's good that we keep it down so that they would only be able to grab 40 in a sense, or 50 or whatever sign. But again, 60 is a high number to be used other places in the city. So that's another reason why if we open up the map and we keep it at a lower, you can move that stuff around within that map. So let's see that they acquire Seaside in the future, and they roll that in. They can rebuild that restaurant or whatever and take that 40 and put it there. But Live Local still can only grab 40. They can't come in and do that. So by keeping it lower than the 60, it does provide Live Local protection in other areas of the city. So, and like I said, you talked about the transfer.
And I'll also add, based on the staff's recommendation, that we did look at standards or comprehensive plan policies for coastal communities in this area, Tarpon Springs, Newport Richey, Pasco County. And we found that, I think Tarpon Springs had a 40 in their community redevelopment area. Nobody exceeded 40. We did find that Newport Richey allows up to 60 in the downtown core, but there's a transfer development right provisions. They're getting a community benefit by taking some properties out of the floodplain area and bringing it into more of a high-rise situation. So they're getting an opportunity to get more of a benefit, but that's not been thought through. If you go at 40 right now, later on you could decide to go to 50, and maybe there's a performance that you add to that, or 60, or it's just that once you establish the 60, you don't get that negotiation room anymore.
We'll do them, going backwards.
It's gone. And I thought I heard the applicant say that they feel that the 40 they'd be able to accomplish their vision within that. I think you guys are, is that what, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I think we can accomplish our vision and do so in a smart way, collaboratively, with planning and zoning's recommendations.
So we need to make a motion?
Well, they got a motion. So I didn't want to just throw it out there and discussion. So I have a motion to keep the map based on staff's recommendation and at the 40 units per acre.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay.
I don't agree.
Yeah, and
I don't agree. I don't agree. Anybody else has to come back. This is something it's really in one way no different than when they did the whole waterfront district to start with. There were rules for the waterfront. It's more complicated, but it's the same thing. So I don't agree.
Any discussion?
We should do the whole thing now.
So I just my comments on that. I agree. I think we need to keep the map the way it is. I'll see you guys see otherwise. Did you have a comment on it, Dave? Okay, I'll put it to vote. Oh wait, before I do that, no public comment. Or I had to do public comment. Yes, a little. Okay, so put a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion denied. Okay, so entertain another motion.
I make a motion that we go with planning and zoning's recommendation to include the entire area.
At the 40?
At the 40.
Okay, motion for the entire area, the planning and zoning, and the 40, which is basically what the ordinance in its current state reads. Is there a second? Second. I have motion second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Okay. Next up is item number 4. I'm going to pass it over to Nancy for the reading.
Ordinance number 24705, an ordinance of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending the future land use map by changing the land use category for parcel number 29 25 16 0020 06200 0010 and parcel number 32 25 16 0270 00200 0010 as more fully described herein and providing for an effective date.
Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anybody like to comment? Seeing no hands, I'll bring it back and close the public hearing and open up the council for a motion or discussion.
This is just going to have that new category applied to 2 of the 4 parcels.
So there's 4 parcels
Right.
in 2 clumps. And this first one is the 2 clumps. This
Gill
is,
Dogs and the one across
is
the
this the
street.
Gill Dogs one? This is, yes, so this Treadway, so yes, this is the old Gill Dogs and the small lot across the street to apply that newly created Cody River Landing US 90 corridor use to those properties. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is item number 5. I'll pass it for reading.
Ordinance number 24706, an ordinance of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending the future land use map by changing the land use category for parcel number 2925160000 03200 0000 and parcel number 2925160000 03200 as more fully described herein and providing for an effective date.
Okay, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to comment? See my hands, I'll bring it back for a motion or discussion. So this is obviously for the other 2 properties that are on US 19 and the small sliver on the abutting that off of Old Post. Is there a motion to include include those properties in that or approve this ordinance number 24-706?
I'll make a motion.
I got a motion. You
Yeah,
second?
okay, approve, second.
Okay, the motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that's all our public hearings. Do we want to take a quick break? We have 2.5 hours here. Want to take a 5 back bio break? And we'll come back to council business. Okay, take 5.
Why don't you give the Lighthouse a call?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Those are mine.
Okay, we're going to resume. Starting with council business, item number 6, approval of contract with the Southern Group for lobbying services. I'll pass that to Mr. Copper for introduction.
As council is aware, during this year's budgeting process, I recommend that the city engage a lobbying firm to help secure grants and direct funding for several potential projects that we're looking at. In pursuit of this, I met with a couple of the companies that specialize in providing these services to municipalities, and have previously worked here in Pasco County and with the city of Newport Richey. After reviewing the capabilities, resources, and proven success in delivering tangible results, I believe the Southern Group is the best fit for our needs. Therefore, I'm recommending that we utilize the publicly bid and recently awarded rate and contract with the Southern Group. Additionally, we've secured pricing based upon the City of Palmetto's contract with the Southern Group, which I believe aligns with the scope of work and is fair for the services required. So the contract that we originally had in there was for $42,000. What the contract will be for is actually $36,000 based upon the Palmetto contract. We're still finalizing what that contract looks like. Unfortunately, my time was caught doing some other things, so it was actually earlier today that working with the city attorney, we were able to put it together, and we'll be getting that contract to the Southern Group if you approve tonight for us to go forward. So if you wish to move forward with this, we put in the recommended motion. That would need to also say for the city manager to negotiate a final agreement with them. And tonight we have a representative, Mike Moore. And
would you like to see my 30-minute presentation? I have one teed up if you'd like to. But the will of the mayor and council and the city manager and county attorney, I'm here to answer any questions. If you like me to talk more about the firm, you do have our deck in your agenda packet. But I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about anything you'd like me to at this time.
It might be good just for the public and obviously
sure.
Just kind of explain. Obviously I spent some time in Tallahassee last year to kind of observe the process and see, and it's if you could just talk about why it's important to have a lobbyist and what you can provide for the city.
Sure, of course. Happy to. So let me give a little background on the firm as well while I'm here. So the Southern Group, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary here in the state of Florida. We have offices across the southeastern United States. We are the largest firm in the state of Florida, and we're thankful that we were named the #1 lobbying firm last year and many previous years as well. In the state of Florida, we have over 50 lobbyists. We're very unique on how we do business in the state of Florida. We don't only have one office in Tallahassee. We have offices across the state of Florida. That includes Tallahassee, includes the Tampa Bay. I live in Pasco County. Some of you may remember I was a county commissioner for 8 years here in Pasco County. Orlando, Jacksonville, Broward, Miami-Dade, even the Keys and Orlando. And the reason we have so many offices across the state is we really want to be closest to the people that we represent. But we also want to be able to build those relationships with the people we lobby on your behalf to. That means our legislators. So instead of just having an office one place where we see the legislators every once in a while during session or during committee weeks, we live and work and play in the same communities they do, and we get to build those strong relationships. In the state of Florida, you have 120 House members, you have 40 senators, and then obviously you have the executive branch with the governor and the cabinet. It's very difficult for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people to get to know that many people. So we have the benefit of having multiple relationships. So if for some reason we're representing you and we have an appropriation and we need to get to a committee chair, maybe I don't know that person as well, but guess what? Somebody in my firm does know that person very well. And we work as a team, and that we collaborate together. It's not just one person that's working on your behalf, it's the entire team. So as the mayor stated before, a little history on how this process works. When it comes to appropriations, you hire us, we go out, you've attempted some appropriations in the past, right? We find a sponsor, we find a House sponsor, we find a Senate sponsor. through committee weeks. We need to get it through the budget, or in the budget. But during that process, we're meeting with the committee chairs, people on those committees as well, to make sure that item gets within the budget and finally gets to the governor's desk. But we still have a lot of work to do too, because we need to make sure the governor does not line item veto that item, which happens quite often as well. We've been very successful. The mayor from Newport Richie's here. We call him out too, but I was brought on to help them last year, and we were successful in getting them an appropriation. The piggyback contract you're working off in the city of Palmetto, we were able to secure $2.5 million for them last year. We were the first time they ever had a lobbyist in the history of that city, which was suggested by some of the legislators. You might want to get some help. I spend my time during the committee weeks in Tallahassee. I spend my time during session in Tallahassee. You'll see me coming home on weekends sometimes, but I do spend my time up there. The mayor has had the opportunity to visit our office when he was up there on your behalf in the past, and obviously the mayor behind me has spent a lot of time in our office as well. And if you do decide to come up and join us during session, which you'll all be invited to do, thankfully we have an office of what's a block away from the Capitol, so we can walk back and forth all day long and see our legislators and visit those people. It's also, let's talk about policy a little bit too. Besides appropriations, we're going to obviously monitor policy that may or may not affect you. And I say may or may not, all policy possibly could affect you, but maybe in a positive or negative manner. Some things that are important to you, obviously home rule is very important to each and every one of you. And we keep you abreast of that too. We don't just, at the end of the session, send something out to you. Every week, we typically go through the city manager. He disseminates that information as he pleases, because we don't want to burden with you too much. But we send out updates every week. We have people actually, besides us going to the committee meetings that's needed, we have somebody that monitors and actually summarizes every committee meeting that's going up there. Every meeting during session that's summarized. So you can get a summary of those bills that may or may not affect you, or will affect you, and get a summary of what's going on. So it's not just appropriations we work on, it's policy as well. And there's those relationships. It's very important to maintain relationships with your legislators and other members of the cabinet, and all the way down to the secretaries of agencies. That's very important too. Many of our lobbyists within our organization were former secretaries of of every agency in the state of Florida. We have former speakers of the House. We have former chiefs of staff to the governor's office and every agency or department you can think of, attorney generals. I could go on, but we have contacts and links to every agency and every legislator to do the best job for you, and hopefully we can have some success. And never make guarantees, but we will do our best and work very hard for you. So I'm open to any questions. Hope that was quicker than the 30-minute presentation.
Yeah, it was. Thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir.
On a timeline, I know legislature comes in session in February.
So this year, they're going to have their first committee weeks starting in December. The first 2 weeks, those are more going to be organizational committee weeks.
Right.
Session starts in March this year.
Okay.
So they'll do committee weeks all the way up to then. And during that time, during committee weeks, that's when we're working on, you're getting your appropriations in. They're due, and I can't remember the exact date they're due. The House has a deadline and the Senate has a deadline. They're two separate deadlines. I start working on them now.
Okay.
I start working on them now with our legislators.
And that's what I was looking for, a timeline. So we should be starting that process. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, committee weeks start in December. We like to get in the door and start having those conversations a month or two ahead of time. So you're in the right schedule.
Okay.
We're good.
So we're coming into this thing, eyes open, full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. So we'll work very closely, obviously, with the city manager and your team and staff on possible appropriation request. And obviously, they'll have those conversations with you. We'll decide on what those requests are. I go and meet with our more likely members of the delegation. Sometimes you don't always use members of your delegation for those appropriations. It matters what position they're in. If they're in leadership positions, sometimes you go out and they'll be supportive of it, but they need another sponsor. And we'll start working that process. But again, we'll go to them too and say, here's what we're looking at, and we'll get their advice and their input on it as well. We want to make sure every time we do an ask on an appropriation side, it's something that the legislators themselves and the sponsors want to champion, right? You got to make sure that they're going to be going full force for you as well there.
Yeah, there's a lot of inside knowledge that these guys have about what priorities are whose and all that. You basically you have access to all these different people different from the firm. Just to give you an example, I went up there. We had 3 appropriations we submitted through both, one in through Yeager's office, 3 in through Hooper's office. I went up there. I met with them, shook their hand, and asked if they would consider our stuff. But again, that's just me talking to those 2. In and of themselves, they can't get anything done. Just like if somebody talks to Bob and say, "Hey, Bob, I want this," it's come to 5-person council, right? Well, these committees are larger, so these things have to get through there. That's the beauty of having somebody up there that actually knows everybody, and they go and they can actually talk to all these different people and start well in advance. I will say that the reason you want to start early is because when I went up there, it's kind of a last minute. We barely got them in because I was new to the process, and we'd never done anything here at the city before. So I had Matt. His first day was first or second day, just to get something together, just to try to make an effort, right? And I went up there during Legislative Action Days with the Florida League of Cities, and I met with folks, and I can tell you they usher them in and out during committee sessions. I mean, you got maybe 10 minutes with the legislator, and you're moving around, and they got one after another all day long for several weeks, right? And so now is the time you have more sit down time, and that's why important he's or whatever lobbyist would be out there advocating for our issues and really playing motion. So when it comes to committee week or during committees, it gets through. It comes to those, sessions where you can actually meet, whether we all go up there, myself or whatever. We can all. Like last year, I got to sit in with Newport Richie. I can't remember
You joined us for I don't remember how many meetings, but you came in with. He's gone. Oh, there he is. There he is. We invited Mayor Hoover to come in with us. Meetings with the city of Newport Richie as well.
Our council was there. They met with the legislators, and again, it worked out. They got $1.2 million, I think, for the fire station.
Yeah, I think it was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an investment in the city and an ability to put somebody on staff, if you will, that is constantly lobbying for stuff we need. And
I think it's exactly what we need.
Huge. Yep.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to contract for lobbying services of City of Port Richey to Southern Group.
For the 3,000, and then also
Right.
allow
Matt to negotiate.
And sign the contract.
Yep. After motion in a second. Any further discussion? Before I move public.
Just one item.
Sure, go ahead.
I know that it was a fire drill when Matt was brought in, and it sounds like, we're right around the corner from that. 2 weeks, week and a half.
No, longer than that. They start committee weeks in December.
Okay, so it was December when you were.
No.
It was
November.
Last year it was November.
Yeah.
Session was different last year. Session was different. Yeah. What happens, just so you know, so it's an election year, so they don't start session itself until after the election.
Because there's new players.
Right.
Right. So the election comes in November. They can't obviously seat the legislators and have them sworn in until then.
Gotcha.
Thanks, sir.
And then I would envision, I know that what's in the contract here was the start date October 1st. I think we start that November 1st going forward. I think so you need that in the motion, do you? Because you're going to detail that. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone in the public like comment? I would love to hear it. All right. I know. So I'll bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome to the team, Mike.
Well, thank you all very much. I look forward to working with each and every one of you and look forward to a successful year.
Yeah. And I will also just say something about Mike. I've known him for a little bit, even on through this process or whatever. Guy returns his phone calls, reaches out, calls, and gives me information. Doesn't work for the city until soon, right? But anything he sees, he's just said he's a hard worker, so he's going to be really good for the city. All right. Moving on to item number 7, approval of resolution number 24-33, update to the local mitigation strategy. I pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Every 5 years, city is required to approve updates to the county's local flood mitigation strategy. Federal law mandates that each county must have a strategy in place. Pasco County develops and maintains a strategy on behalf of its municipalities, and we've participated by aligning with their plan. Maintaining an independent plan for the city would be both costly and burdensome. Closed is resolution approving Pasco County's updated local mitigation strategy. As part of the formal adoption process required by FEMA, the city must officially adopt the 5-year revisions approved by the local mitigation strategy working group.
You read the.
Resolution number 2433, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Port Richey, Florida, supporting, adopting, and implementing the Pasco County 2004 5-year update of the local mitigation strategy.
First discussion.
This year.
Motion to approve resolution 24-33, 5-year update for the local mitigation strategy.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Anyone public like to comment? Seeing has to bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, approval of resolution number 24-34, waiving building permit fees for repair of damages to houses and businesses caused by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. I'll pass it to Mr. Copeland for introduction.
Because of the widespread damage caused by hurricanes Helene and Milton, I'm proposing that we waive the building permit fees that are issued or assessed by the city for all work that is done because of the damage sustained by the residents and businesses. As you're aware, the economic impact of these storms has been substantial, with many residents and business owners facing the overwhelming costs of repairing and rebuilding their properties. By waiving building fees, the city will ease the financial burden on these affected properties, allowing them to focus their resources on necessary repairs and reconstruction. This waiver will encourage swift rebuilding, prevent delays in recovery, and help restore our neighborhoods and commercial areas to their pre-storm condition. The waiver of fees would be limited to a 6-month period, ensuring that only immediate recovery needs be addressed. The time frame strikes a balance between supporting recovery efforts and maintaining the city's long-term fiscal responsibilities. Additionally, the waiver will be an incentive for residents and business owners to act quickly, reducing the risk of prolonged disruption to the local economy.
Resolution number 2434, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Richey, Florida, providing for a temporary waiver of building permit fees for repairs related to building or structural damage caused by Hurricanes Helene and Milton, providing for an intent and purpose of this resolution, providing for a filing period for eligible building permit applications, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve resolution number 24-34, waiving permit fees.
Second.
Okay. Second, Dave, your motion. Any further discussion? The only thing I was going to add, you said 6 months in there. Do we think that's the right amount of time, or should it be a little longer than that?
There is an option in there to extend it for 60 days after that, just so you know it's in section 3.
For the city manager to do that, or council come back?
Council.
To extend it for
City, you have the 6 months, and then City Council shall have the option to extend this resolution for an additional 60 days if authorized prior to the expiration of the resolution.
So is that like rolling 60 days, and that comes, we do another 60 days?
It just says,
just one time?
allows it one time.
I think I would recommend that we go more than the 6 months. I mean, again, if during the 6 months there's another state of emergency that would delay that, what I think we've seen with Idalia is 6 months is plenty of time for people to, and again, we want to incentivize them to step forward and do this. If we, unfortunately, there's going to be people that if you give a year, it's going to take a year.
Yeah. The only reason I bring that up is just because, given the magnitude of the damage, and even we see it now as we compete for resources just to get rid of the junk, it may be hard to find contractors to get that done. And so 6 months is, while it may seem like a normal amount of time, but given the circumstances, it could roll it quickly.
Right, but it's 6 months to apply. Once you have the building permit, you have another 6 months before.
Yes, to finish it, right?
Right.
But you can contact the building, we've established you can
Right.
contact them,
The
and
initial
as long as you
elevation.
contact them within that 60 days, or whatever, it keeps, every time you contact them, it extends it,
Right.
right?
Every time you have an active permit or active inspection.
Yeah.
Not just contacting.
Right. So once it's
Well, I mean, they
active,
can send somebody out.
Yes, but what we're talking about is the initial application.
Right.
Once it's applied for in 6 months, you're good to go. What we're saying is in the 7th month, it could be an issue. You can't get a contractor to show up for a period of time. So no sense in getting a permit until you got, contractor. So
Yeah. So,
I'm okay with it.
I mean, I think it's reasonable and I'm out. We can always revisit if we need to, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna, that was one of my questions. If the 6 month isn't long enough, we can do another resolution. I mean,
Yeah.
So this is just for storm damage only?
Yes.
So if someone wants to put an addition in 5 months from now, how do we know that he said it's storm damage, but it's not? Do we go out and check?
We're asking for pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're asking for pictures.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're
if you
verifying.
if you don't have a fourth bedroom,
Well,
then you want to
Well,
add
I'm
a fourth
asking.
bedroom, then that wouldn't be a storm related.
not many houses left, but there might be a few.
So I got a motion second. Hey, open up public comment. If you'd like to speak.
I just want to comment if you don't mind. Financially, I don't think it's a good idea for the city. And I work for you guys, but I want to, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say that. You're losing probably just, $150,000 in a time when we probably need that money. I agree that something should happen, maybe revisit it. But I mean, making them, I just don't think financially it's the wisest decision. I understand that we need to get people building and stuff like that. I agree with that, but financially, it's a big loss, especially with the money we're spending right now with the overtime and everything else, and not being able to recoup that. Who knows at this point? That's just my opinion, but I'm going to support anything you guys do.
Sure, I appreciate that. And obviously there is a financial impact. I will add though that had we not had these events, they wouldn't be coming and getting permits to fix them. So it's not like we're adding staff. I mean, here's some overtime stuff or whatever, and again, it's possibly reimbursed through FEMA and whatnot. So while there is a financial impact, it's really above and beyond probably what we budgeted for, because if we weren't planning on having all these permits to fix and
I
stuff.
thought this would be a windfall.
Yeah.
Look, we could do.
Yeah, this way actually it pad the numbers.
We could do 50% too, or something, half.
I got a motion for the full thing, 100%. So I just do want to ask for a put to vote. This again, unprecedented. People are hurting. We want to encourage people to come out and get permits. We don't want to be prohibitive. We want to make sure that they're doing it right. And I think this is a great step for the community to incentivize them to come in. Hey, talk to us. Let's work through this. And I think this is a great way the city can do something to help. So.
just to clarify, this is just waiving the fees for the permit. People still have to get the permits.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that we're very clear in that respect. We're not saying you do not have to get a permit.
That's correct, yes.
We are saying you still need a permit, but
It's
you
just
do
free.
not have to pay the fee. And I understand what Adam, you're saying. I totally understand, but what you're saying also, Eric, is true. If this storm did not happen, they wouldn't even be getting permits to start with. So we're not taking money out of the system.
I agree with you.
We're just not adding to it.
I agree with you. Like I said, I work
Yeah.
for
No,
Matt,
I understand what you're
and I
saying.
support him, but
I
I
agree.
wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, hey, this is
Appreciate
a
it.
great idea.
Well, to Adam's point, we are going to incrementally pay an inspector to go and look at this
Yeah, there's
stuff.
a cost.
So we are going to incur cost, and to what extent we have more inspections, more people writing permits, it is going to tax the staff a little bit. But in light of the fact that we had 2 back-to-back hurricanes, and if you look back a year, had another one, and most of these people are doing it redoing their home twice. I don't think we need to be burdening them with this additional thing. And it's a gesture that the city can move forward with and try to help this community get back together. I think it's a good gesture.
Yeah. So I got no public comment, so I put
Sure. There's one thing I probably should have put out there with this. So again, what we're doing is saying, come in, get the permit before you start the work.
as you always should.
Right. You'll get that waived.
Yeah.
However, if we find that you're doing the work that requires a permit, you're not, and we find out you already started that, there won't be a waiver on that.
Okay. So if you try to skirt the process, you will be charged.
You will be charged, and our current charging is three times what that is. So again, there is.
Move that we add that in here.
Is that not in there?
No. I think we should add that language.
So I need, if you're in agreement, who made the motion? I think
I did. Yeah.
If you want to
We want
pull
to
that.
amend it to include that if you're caught doing.
Well, it'd be easier if you just take back your motion, because we got a second.
Take it back.
Okay, so now we can entertain a new motion.
So now say it again.
Go ahead, Susan. What do you want?
Oh, are you asking me what? Oh, I want, you can approve resolution number 2434 with additional language addressing individuals that did not get the permit ahead of time, not being allowed to take advantage of the resolution.
Fines will be applied or something. If
Compliant
permits are not-
After the
Yeah, so
With the current.
I'll
Give them
You
a
want your
time frame, 3 days, 2 days. I mean, what?
whatever he said. No, whatever I said.
so I'll state it, so, and then somebody move it. So what we're looking for is I need a motion to approve resolution number 24-34 with the amendment that we only waive if the resident comes forth in advance. If they're caught working without a permit, this waiving of fees does not apply, and the regular rules of 3 times the permit fee are enforced.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second.
I have one question. We know that we have, 1,100 homes that have been affected. Can we make sure that I know the code enforcement gentleman was coming around on Sunday and handing out grant books, and that's wonderful. But can we make sure that I don't want to catch these poor people that have already suffered a loss of their homes. Can we communicate with them by sending them a letter or dropping a letter, something, so that they know that they still need a permit for their work? I don't want to hit them with triple fees just because they thought because it was a storm we can do it, and they misunderstood our wording.
So code enforcement has been driving around this weekend, and he's educating. He's not giving any citations, or he's not giving any violation, anything like that. He's trying to let people know, come down to the office and put in your permit application. That's all he is doing. He's got the packets we have out in the lobby. We have it on the internet as well. Mm-hmm. He's just reiterating and letting people know. I have caught a couple contractors doing work without permits, and I didn't cite them or anything. I gave them 24 hours to come into the office and put in, or I would put a stop work order on their door. They came in the next day, they applied, they did it. They apologized. They know they're not supposed to be doing the work without a permit. So it's very, very important that they come in, but we are not giving citations or violations.
Is there any way we couldn't do a one-time letter to all the residents so that they know? I mean, I don't want to catch them. We should notify them ahead of time so that there's no problem.
You're mailing.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's going to cost a lot of money, but
$600.
let's. I mean, I just don't want to catch the residents. You know, I mean, they're already upset. They lost their house. Now,
He's instructing them. He can inform them.
Is there a way we can handle this within the resolution that so they're caught?
Because I think if they're notified, if they're aware of the rule and they're caught, they should pay the fine. But I'm afraid that someone's not going to be aware of the rule, and then we're going to catch them, and then they're going to. You know what I mean? Like, and how do you determine that they know or not know?
You know, the big problem with this type of damage is the whole drywall discussion, right? People don't think that drywall needs a permit when it does. Now, obviously, people put in HVAC and all those different things. They generally know, contractors generally know.
Contractors doing the work.
Right, but you got people that are stripping their drywall out and putting it back up that they may not know. They should, but reasonable to think that they might not. So
We're not finding the people, I'll be honest with you. In the past week, I've been driving around as well. We're not finding homeowners doing the work.
It's
We're
contractors.
not finding homeowners. We're finding contractors.
And they should know better.
We're finding
They should know
handymen doing work. That's what we're finding. We're not finding homeowners who are not aware of the process. We're finding people that know the process and are trying to circumvent the process.
And they're probably trying to save the customer money. And
that's what they're trying to do. So we're trying to, even with them, we're telling them, come down to City Hall, fill out the permit application. That's how we're finding. We also have some undercover people in the community that were told to us as well. So you've got people coming out of divisions out of Tampa And they've given us their business cards, and they're finding people doing work, unlicensed work. They're unlicensed, contractors, insurance fraud people out there. So they're in our communities and they're knocking, and we're sure to tell everybody. Anytime we talk to them on the phone, we're letting them know, before you hire anyone, do your due diligence, call, ask, just ask the questions. But anybody that you hire, we're seeing a lot of people pulling their own permits, their own owner permits. They can do that, but just be aware, those are red flags when a contractor is asking you to pull the permit. You're assuming that responsibility as a homeowner.
Right.
So there's a lot of information that I think a workshop would be good, that we can let people know. If we have to go door to door and put a flyer on everybody's door, we'll do that. I mean, I only have a limited staff, but I mean, we'll do what we can. We put it out on the website. We're handing out packets. I've got code enforcement working on the weekend. We're trying to get the word out there to at least apply for your permit.
Can a mailer be added to the water bills?
It's a good thought.
Next water bills
We
wouldn't
can
be
try.
until
Yeah.
next month.
So it's a great opportunity. It's a great effort to try to reach out and touch everybody, whether it be a mailer or whatever, and we can literally spin our wheels and money and try to get the information out there. But they got to consume that information. Even if you mail it, get Seaport, trash. They might read it. I'm fixing my drywall. I can't have time to read this. So, people are going to do what they're going to do. I believe we're doing a great job. I mean, Veronica came down the street handing out sandwiches on Green Street, and that's probably an opportunity where they could talk to people that was doing stuff or whatever. That's probably was part of it, right? People should know. Now, there are cases where people hire a contractor and they don't know, they just want to get the work done, and that contractor's at fault, and there should be an avenue to hold that contractor accountable. I'm sure what probably happens is I got caught by a permit, and they roll it on the customer's charges or whatever. So there's obviously there's circumstances all the time, exceptions to the rule. So my question was, I believe that 3 times the permit fee is something that the building department has a discretion to apply or not. That's not hard set, right?
I have to look at the wording. I don't know.
Yes, it's May.
Okay, May. So is it enough? And I don't know the answer to this. I'm asking, I guess, you what's your thoughts on it. And obviously, I think you probably have the ability to intervene on certain things as well. Is that enough to? Obviously, we put it out there. We're talking about it in this meeting. People are they're hearing about it. It's on the website. It's in the packet. If they just don't do it and they come and they say, "Well, I had no idea I hired this guy," and it finds out this contractor's there, have that discussion with you all, and you have the autonomy to make a decision.
Well, with contractors as well, we have the ability to put in a formal complaint with DPPR. So it does go against their license. So
Right.
it does behoove contractors to come in, because the last thing they want is something negative on, DPPR under their license.
And I can almost bet with 100% certainty, that's 99% certainty, that when a contractor comes to the house, they can say, "Well, I can do it for this, but if I do it this way and I don't do a permit, so they're informing the resident seeing how I'm saving money, so they probably know about it most of the time."
Well, we educate any homeowner that comes in. We're educating them and we're letting them know. We've had a couple people say, "You know what, I'm going to second guess this and I'm not going to do it." So we have had that happen as well. We just try to inform everyone. We tell them everything.
So again, and you heard what Veronica said, we're finding people now doing that work. And the first thing that we do is we don't cite them. We say, get in and file the permit. And if, we follow that same process through this process, which would be our desire, and they come in the next day and file that permit, there's no issues, right?
Well, that makes some sense to do it that way, but by resolution, what we said is if they're caught doing it without the permit.
Well, but again, although I can't say in the past it's been uniform this way, but for a lot of people, that's what happened in the past. I mean, again, we didn't jump right to it's triple. I think it's when people ignore us saying, come in and get this. That's when, it fell into, getting a triple rate as well as, getting a citation. So I don't think that we're really changing anything in this, and why I wanted to bring it up. We're going to treat people that don't want to get a permit, and it's not because we haven't told them to get a permit. I mean, they'll have that opportunity. You need to get the permit, and do it, within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever the circumstance is. And if they don't do it then, that's when, we would go to the enforcement piece.
So, Nancy, do you feel like what we have in there will
I'll
cover
work on the wording in the code gives the building official the ability to grant a waiver of fees or more time to do what they need to do when cause is demonstrated. So I think the wording in here will capture all of that. That it will be, we're waiving these if you're caught without a permit. I think the best way to probably put it is then the city code will apply. More generic. So take it to the city code. What does the city code say? The city code said there's these fines, there's these fees that may be waived if the right information is provided. I think that would be the best way to do it.
So again, using some of the examples you brought up, if it's a homeowner that's replacing all the drywall in their living room or through their house, and they do it themselves, and we knock at the door and say, we see you're doing this, you need to get a permit, come in tomorrow, get the permit. They come in tomorrow, get the permit, we're done.
all good?
Yeah.
Waive fees.
But if we don't see them in a couple of days, we go back there and the drywall's done, then
we told you so.
That would apply. Yeah. So I think there's going to be, again, the way that we're going to be doing this, I think there's already built in that we're going to be communicating with people. And again, I think between Veronica and Pat, they've talked to a lot of people. I mean, it's not everyone out there. They've talked to a lot of people. And again, in the early days of this, I saw how she went about, communicating. She was telling people, it looks like you're going to need to get a permit. You need to come in and talk to us to see what it is you're going to be doing and what that's going to be. And that's before, we got into the waiving of the fees. So I think we've done as good of a job on a one-to-one basis as you can expect given the circumstances we have.
The other aspect of this obviously is why people would want to circumvent the permit process is the 50% rule as well. They've like as much taken care of outside of those numbers as well. So you probably have that aspect in it as well. Mm-hmm. So while it's a great gesture for the city to waive permit fees, there is a,
double-edged sword.
Yeah,
I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Oh, by the way, got to board it up. So it's.
But with that being said, the importance of doing what we're supposed to do as it relates to the floodplain management to the whole community is even. That's the balance here, right? Because you had said earlier, if we're not in the plan, no one's getting flood insurance. So, you might say, hey, I don't need flood insurance, but then you decide to move and you want to sell your house.
Yeah, that's what they can't buy it.
Yeah, no one will be able to buy it. Then you're going to be stuck and you're not going to be able to move. So, there is a greater good here in doing it. I know it's a hardship at times, and it's something that we're going to be dealing with because I think it's our intention as a city to stay in that CRS program because it serves the greater good of the community to be a part of that. And so, we're going to have to figure this out. State's going to have to figure it out. Federal government's going to have to figure this out, how it doesn't, destroy a community, because there's going to be a lot of communities. Now, up to this point, FEMA hasn't really given a rat's what about that, and they've threatened to take that away from different communities in the state of Florida. I think they may have actually.
They have. Well, they threatened me.
And so I don't hold a lot of hope that anybody above us is going to look out for us in doing this. But, maybe that's where, we have to be more creative in what we do. Maybe there's things with our CRA that we can do to try to help as much as we can. But we're going to be crossing that one way or another, and there's just really no way out of it.
With that, there's going to be some folks that are going to get some bad news, and there's no amount of sorries that can make up for somebody losing their home. And so the best you can do as a city, obviously, is to explain the reasons why that's like there, why it's like that. It's for the good of the community, and they're still not going to hear it. But at least if you're compassionate, and that's important, obviously, from the building department, you guys are frontline. If you're compassionate, explain why, and really advocate for them, and we do all we can. At the end of the day, some people are going to get bad news, but hopefully we can at least minimize that. So I think I do have a motion in a second in a while. So any further discussion? I don't know if open up public comment. Danny, nothing? All right. Bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is item number 9, surplus of impounded vehicles. Passage, Mr. Coppel, for introduction.
Expresses for the surplus of 10 impounded vehicles that have been stored in the impound lot of the police department for 90 days or more. The registered owners were sent notifications via registered mail and not responded to retrieve their vehicles. The Port Richey Police Department will send these vehicles to the Royal Auction Group. As is our standard practice, RAG will auction these vehicles through their standard process. I also want to point out that I haven't gotten the contract finished with them yet, which I was talking to Nancy. We will prioritize that to get that done here in the next couple of days. So we'll actually be able to send those to the Royal Auction.
Okay. Open up for motion and discussion.
Yes. I got 4 items. Do we have keys for all these vehicles?
I know. I have to check.
Okay, that probably needs to be addressed because I think they wanted that and titles.
The titles we have to get, unlike the other group that we had at TMA, we have to get the titles up front. Pay for them up front.
Have we got them?
Oh, you're sorry.
We have to pay for the titles up front.
I get that. Have we got them?
Yes. The ones that we have
Then
that are on the
these
list.
9 or 10 vehicles we can move.
Yes.
And what about the vehicles that were at Tampa Machinery Auction? What's the status on those?
They were sold, and we got 66, 70, I believe, for those, and minus the tow fees. So
that's
just waiting
done.
on
We
the
don't
check.
have any inventory there anymore.
We're done with Tampa Machinery Auction.
And do we have a process? Because we effectively incur almost $2,000 on the books. Doesn't cost us that because it's just sitting in a lot back there. There's not a cash machine rolling out cash. But there is taking up space, and that was your problem, trying to move to this other thing. Do we make any efforts to contact the owner over that 3-month period several times to ensure that, hey, they know this clock's ticking and give them an opportunity to redeem their car?
Correct. Per the process, we send out mailers, their return receipt to the registered owners of the vehicles. And during that process, they have the opportunity to respond or not respond.
Okay. And these 10 vehicles, I don't know how many there are. How many other vehicles do we have in the lot back here?
We have
that are in the aging process, in the 90-day aging process.
We have 10 more that we can attempt to get the titles
rolling
for.
into. But it's taken us a period of time to apply for the title.
Correct. We can apply to the title. We also have to advertise it for a 2-week period in the newspaper before we can get the titles. And then we can get the titles. It usually takes about a week.
But back to the key thing, I believe we can get more money for these cars if there's a key in it.
99% of the cars we have keys for.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Motion or discussion? Okay. Motion seconds for discussion. Just in a little bit of levity, I lost my Mercedes in the flood. I kind of had my own that 2021 Chicago scooter. So
I'll let you know when the auction is.
So if you let me know how that goes. I like to put a bid in on that one.
You'd kill yourself on that.
I went from, all there is, yeah, it's hard to use it. One good year, right? Anyone public got comment? So you have to bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our council business. Open up for discussion of old business. Is there any discussion of old business? Hold on. I'll get right to it. Second. Okay. Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.